Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm just adjusting my audio over here. I hope you can all hear me okay. Today is Lessons from Full Spectrum Humans, Level 2, Lesson 13. It is all about the Christian religion. And I'm going to talk a lot about current events. So even though you might have heard me speak on this topic in the past, and of course, I'm always going to send out my notes, and I did scan through my notes today before our class, and just to make sure that there weren't any extremely glaring errors or anything that I had to make clear from what I wrote about years ago, or even from the last time that I wrote, when I transposed those notes only a few years ago, if there were any critical updates, not too many critical updates that needed to be done in terms of my perception of Christianity, but it just would like to be able to articulate to you here that I'm going to bring to you today a lot of topics that are, I would say, maybe not for everyone. So it is not my intention to ever be offensive or to try to harm anyone on their spiritual journey. So if you have a belief system that is based more in biblical literalism, like believing every single word of the Bible, or certain formal, orthodoxies of the current Christian church, then this might not be for you. And so then I would say that, I encourage you to enjoy your belief system and enjoy what you believe. And then I'm going to talk about this. So that's kind of like my asterisk legalese, like, get ready, strap yourselves in, this is going to happen. And when I say gird your loins, like that's actually a biblical phrase. And I say it, but then like people think that it's some sexual thing, but it's not. Just because you're saying loins doesn't mean it's sexual. It is actually about preparing for battle. So, like, rant incoming. What I'm trying to say in a gentle, positive way is rant incoming. So, first, I should give you the energetic weather report and tell you why I need to talk about all these things also, and then tell you about the overall state of the things that are on the bad piece of paper that I usually hold up, and then tell you a lot of other wonderful good things too. Okay, so all of this in order to say, if you've heard what I say about the Christian religion in the past and heard my previous lectures, this will not be a repeat. This is very much tied into current events, and this is very much tied into even, the energetic weather report of what's happening with cosmic solar ejections and things like that. Okay, good. And those who have a sensitivity to vocal critiques of the Christian religion and of Jewish religion and of biblical literacy. Literalism is the word I meant to say. Biblical literalism. Then this lecture is not for you. Okay, everybody, let's dive in. Okay, so first of all, energetic weather report is yes, there was a lot of energy coming into our world from the sun, creating auroral displays, even those that are able to finally get to ground level. And that's very positive because I have been doing a lot of stuff against and the horrible fictional sky poops that make them happen. Okay. And also, all the things that I talk about here are part of my fictional book club. Thank you. Good. I'm also feeling like very theatrical today. Earlier today, I was kind of rewatching my wonderful comic book called Another Day in Hell. So I would really, really encourage you, if you haven't already seen it, I would wish for you to see it because it also has a really rocking soundtrack. So check it out. And this is my fictional book club. All right. You got it, guys. Good job. So I've been working very, very assiduously to remove the things that are making that force field of encapsulation around our world. Instead of walking on eggshells, I will just now talk about all these different things because it's too much mental labor and mental distress for you to have to go through this. An enormous amount, like the solar wind is flowing into our world, and an enormous amount of energy is, again, that word is not enough to be able to describe what is happening. More sentience, more timelines and possibilities and probabilities, more capacitation for you to perceive things and to know what is going on, more empowerment for you to actually respond to those things that are coming in. So yes, you're getting more groceries from the store, and you're also becoming more literate and becoming more capable of comprehending or enzymatically digesting those groceries. And all of this is becoming more available to you because of the work that I'm doing in order to have no more kg force fieldy around your horrible, a wonderful planet, but made by horrible people. The horrible thing. All right. So more of that energy is reaching you, and so that is positive. And that also really relates to events and the artificial control structure that has been attempting to hijack events, especially as it relates to the overlay on top of natural, divinely created DNA behavior. And a lot of what you're watching right now in the world is a visual display of a battle of the belief systems, because you have a lot of people who have been programmed with a very, very negative belief system, which is about the end of the world or the end of reality. That has to do with biblical literalism and the book of Revelation, which is at the end of the Bible. And that is not only an old, outdated prophecy since 2001, and the creation of the flying rainbow lasagna, which is what we all like to really focus on in this class. All right, but this is going to be relevant to lasagna today. I was like, we want to focus on the good stuff. I know. And we're going to have to send a lot of things to entropy. So it will be relevant to lasagna. But since that was created in 2001, all of the prophecies from before then are no longer relevant, because not only did it, let's say, shake up the etch-a-sketch of time one time, it shakes up the etch-a-sketch of time all the time. Like every day, I'm shaking up the etch-a-sketch of time. And then also, all of you beautiful lasagna dancers are also out there doing your dance, and you are shaking up the etch-a-sketch of time as well. And this is all very, very intentional. And when I did this, I didn't say like, oh, like I'd better, try to prevent or be a roadblock to this, horrible AI stuff. But I was making sure that we were creating sufficient levels of complexity to be able to efficiently overwhelm and supersede an AI system. But then like they built the AI system. So I want you to like, I wasn't necessarily saying like, better. I can't even put this into words. You can tell I'm having a lot of difficulty. So just scratch that and let's keep going onward about my motivations and other things like that, because I'm trying to be as serious and focused as I can in order to bring you important information. Like basically, we're very, very close to completion of the efforts of spiritual attainment here. And it's important not to get drawn aside and go onto the wrong path or go out of alignment at this moment in your experience. Like you've already been focused and have not fallen into many different peripheral traps and things that could lead you off your path. It's important to stay on your path. The fictional satellite network that's in the sky was designed not only to take you off your path, but to block out the signals that keep you on your path. One of the most important lines from my notes is that DNA is an antenna to God, and it helps to connect you to the sun. I'm scrolling and that took away my energy. It's horrible stuff. DNA is an antenna that helps you to connect to the sun. I have to say fictionally because of the captured platform that we're on. But fictionally, this is what's happening. And so, of course, anything that harms the true nature of your DNA would disconnect you from the sun and from true solar consciousness and from truly divine solar consciousness. So, let's just talk about Elon Musk for a second, because I got to gird your loins, talk about all these different satellites that he's been putting up for his Starlink system. Today he woke up and decided to make some kind of a tweet on his X platform saying something about like, we have to create some kind of a network for a sentient sun. Like, first of all, I don't respect him, his intellect, his motivations, or anything about him. And I think that he has pilfered and pirated resources from your planet in order to create this network of consciousness imprisonment, fictionally, of course, and then to connect various different intentional participants to that consciousness reduction network, who would be like the elevated ones in Animal Farm. In the book Animal Farm, everybody's equal on the animal farm, except some of you are more equal than others, right? Everybody's an animal on the animal farm, except some are more equal than others. That's terrible. I've butchered the quote. All right, but please forgive me. But that is exactly what has happened. Super soldiers full of hydrogels, fictionally, watch my fantastic book club, that are slightly amplified in their psychic abilities. They're antichrists. And so it helps me to be able to get through the various different social media filters that are, while I'm trying to connect with you and talk with you about this. If I use religious language, if I just call it antichrist, but I don't want to add to the negative spell, the dark magic, and the dark technology. That is what I call the human Bible, the Torah, the whatever, the Old Testament and the New Testament. So they are not good spiritual literature. And I am heartened when I listen to other people's videos who are inhabitants of your world. Like I'm an otherworldly visitor. I'm coming here and it's a little bit like, someone who's from it's an outsider viewpoint where I come in and it's a little bit like, who are you to criticize us? And I'm like, well, I am from here and we're going to talk a lot today about what true ascension is and what the true plan for this planet is. But it's a little bit like, like, who are you? Who are you here to criticize and all these different things? But when I see native inhabitants or long-term inhabitants of this planet that are like, something, this is, they're also similarly critical of Christianity and of the values that it portrays. I am heartened because it is a major spiritual attainment step to get over Christianity. Christianity is a Saya itself, thousands of year old Saya. And then the modern flavor of Christianity as it is being perpetrated upon you is also incredibly perilous and dangerous. And what is happening right now fictionally in the world is a blending of this very unpalatable, highly erroneous version of Christianity plus transhumanism. A techno-inquisition. This is what I've been telling you guys about. So it is something that's been going on behind the scenes since 2020, and it is poised to become something that is overt, that the ones who made this techno-inquisition and have been, self-selecting to both accuse, judge, and then execute the people in the world that they don't like, that they find to be either political dissidents or inconvenient in some way. And they're doing all this execution through technology, through frequency, through things that are not easily visible and are certainly not overtly acknowledged by people who are believing in materialist science and people who don't yet know about, let's say, moderately elevated science. It's not like alternative science. It's not really magic, but it is a type of technology that's been basically retro-engineered from artifacts that have been given into your world, just like giving children firecrackers. It's not good stuff. None of this technology is good stuff. If there's one takeaway from my notes, it is that real ascended masters, genuine Christs, do not need clank metal spaceships, do not need any type of technology, do not require any type of 5G network or satellite grid to connect to your mind, talk to you, guide you, uplift you, teach you, nourish you, or do any of the positive things that we would wish for an actual coherent family of light to do for us, and that the fake Inquisition promises to do. All right? Big, important stuff. And when we were in flight as a group on Tuesday, one of the people who was in the flight, like, I'm like, helping everybody. When we do our lasagna dance, I'm like, helping you guys. That's because you're not expected to do it on your own. That's why I'm here. What? Or like, wow, snack. Like, why aren't you just flying off in the galaxy alone? Like, it's like, I'm here to help you so you can learn how to do it. You got it? Like, I'm here in service to help you to learn how to do something that I know how to do, and you can benefit from it. Good. So not that I think that you guys have that kind of a bad attitude, but if any rational gremlins come up in your mind and have those questions or considerations, like, well, that is why Aurora is here, in order to try to teach and help you. And it's totally appropriate to receive help and guidance, especially in something that is new to you, but that someone else might already have experienced or mastered, and especially in a time or a place where things are perilous. So, yes, you must be independent and self-sufficient and fly with your own wings of consciousness, propel yourself through life and through time, have your own armature of integrity that holds you up and makes you feel like you know what you need to do and what is right and wrong. And you must also have your own genetic antenna that's connected to God, and that God tells you what to do. And then you have the desire and loyalty to follow those inner directives. And that is what I talk about in my notes as the innate relationship between Christ, the indigo chakra, and Christ, the anthropomorphic viewpoint, plus the crown chakra, the violet chakra, which is pure abstraction and is the partner to Christ. And that is a direct analogy to your DNA. So your DNA is a sacred, holy instrument, and it helps you to connect directly to God because God is ever changing. God is like one of these wonderful patterns, that I paint, but I'm just giving you like one snapshot, but God is ever evolving. All right. So think of it like that. And I'm very, very honest. Like I identify as God. I've had the I am God moment. And I also recognize I have many things to learn and even invent. Like I need to explore flying rainbow lasagna. I need to explore how to communicate flying rainbow lasagna to other people. I need to explore the ramifications of what happens when you start to flying rainbow lasagna. Like all of these things are important to me and they keep me embodied. So if you ever wonder also like, well, like if you're so this or you're so that, like why in the world are you here? And why are we having all these problems? I'm like, don't worry. Like I'm very, very conscious of all of that. And I'm here to explore reality and to create reality and to help you all to also learn how to create reality consciously. And all the things when I say this, it is not meant to be something that is creating a barrier or a distinction between myself and you, like a hierarchy, as long as you're God. Like if you're garbage people, then I'm like, go away from me. And also this lesson is not for you. Not that I'm putting Christian people into the level of garbage people, but like if you're an evil, demonic able, then please go away from me. This lesson is not for you. If you are a human being with flaws trying to learn and do the best you possibly can, this lesson is for you. And I am not putting an intentional barrier of hierarchy between myself and you in saying that I know that I'm God, as like you guys aren't God, not you are God. We are in different stages in our journey. And this is why I'm here and why I am sharing what I'm sharing with you so authentically. So trying hard in order to not portray myself as a megalomaniac who has only had the awakening up to this level. And trying hard to show you my resume, which is all of the paintings that I create that shows you that I've made it to the abstract level. I've really made it up there. And also trying hard not to be too egotistical about making it to the abstract level, because I also want you to know that one of my paintings that whatever might, take me a year to make and has all of these levels of complexity in it, that is still only one snapshot. It's still only a small amount of what is really going on, what my capabilities really are, what I'm really connected to, and what is the much, much larger thing. So, yeah, it's hard to tell. I'm not sure if I'm being misperceived through what I'm saying. So I'm trying hard to make it come through clearly. So that way you can do something similarly. Like you claim the aspects of creation that you're clearly doing. You're like, yep, I made that thing and I'm at that level. But then there's some stuff where you're like, that is way beyond me. But then of course you're growing and evolving in order to become a part of mastery at that level. All of that is totally appropriate and totally appropriate in my point for saying this to receive assistance. Of course. A lot of what I fight against with the fictional evil hydrogel army is their sense of how they respond to something or someone or an organism or organization who is demonstrably more intelligent than them. They lash out and are angry and are like, kill it with fire. It's more intelligent than us. All right. And they also ascribe to some of these very, very flawed proposals that are in like kind of the science fiction and gamers world that I'm only tangentially aware of from the like reading a science fiction book that basically state like it's called Dark Forest. It basically says like if you're in a dark forest, don't build a fire because it's only monsters out there and your fire will only be like they'll be like all the monsters will be like hooray, let's go eat you now because we see exactly where you are. So you have to be like small and quiet and hide. I don't agree with any of that. Clearly, I am not only a campfire. I'm like, let's build a giant glowing lasagna in the dark forest. Let's light up the dark forest. Let's have a dance party in the dark forest. And what is the difference between myself here and these very, very flawed people that are putting forward this other proposal? If you are a grotesque monster and something that shouldn't be in reality, then it is true. If you make yourself visible to the world, then the world will destroy you because it's like, wow, that's a gross, evil thing. Kill it with fire. But if you're just a good person doing good things and learning and growing on your journey, like, no, that's not what is going to happen to you. I have to articulate this to you because beautiful, good, decent human beings have been in such a garbage system that you have maybe considered Maybe good people don't get what they deserve. Maybe bad people get rewarded. Maybe there's not a qualitative distinction that is being made between good and bad people. And the problem in your world that I am perceiving right now is that this horrible force field blends together your fates or your destinies or the end result of your test scores. You're being graded as a group when that is not fair. You must be graded as individuals. This is what I'm working on. Because if you're graded as a group, like no one's getting out of here. And not that it's out of here. And apologies, I need to hydrate. Apologies for like becoming too lighthearted and unserious, because I also need to talk to you about what ascension is. It is not escapism. Although I do recognize that people, good people, are under levels of, extreme torment and a huge amount of pressure, and that is why you would wish to experience escapism. Um, um, so just because now I'm trying to decide, should I go into my curriculum or should I continue with the energetic weather report? Because you had an enormous amount of energy flowing in actually 2 Tuesdays ago. Then you had like an explosion of parasitic behavior. And sometimes that happens. Um, you know, the energy, like water flows into a garden. Definitely positive plants are watered and they grow and flourish, but it also waters some of the weeds or undesirable plants in the garden. Okay. So we definitely had some of that. Then we had an even greater magnitude on Tuesday where I experienced that, a person they faltered in the flight and I helped them and they were wondering if they're allowed to receive help. And I'm like, well, yes, you're allowed to receive help. And that's why I'm here. And this is why I'm telling you, about who I am and my role for being here. So please know that as you're going forward, like you must be an individual, stand on your own and have your own inner structure, but also like any one of us can need help at a time. And it's important to have good community around us, people who can give energy to you if you need energy or help to kind of get you back into alignment if you need that. And also let's talk a little bit about the values of Christ. So I'm Aurora and I come from Christ. Like I have not been fooled by the Christian church psyop here because I come from Christ and I know exactly what are the values of Christ and I know how much it is not being represented in the Christian church here. And right now your Christian church in the United States is poised to try to do some kind of a velvet coup or not so velvet coup, some possibly violent coup against the populace and try to create some kind of, like I said, techno-inquisition that is based very loosely on the values of Christianity and very loosely on the flavor of the Bible, but not directly, and to create an incredibly suppressive regime where basically women are, owned and objectified and forced to breed like cattle. That is a horrible reality. I will not allow that reality to happen. So all of these are, again, organized my thoughts, not a manual or a recipe for what should happen. Cautionary tales. Books or movies like The Handmaid's Tale or Children of Men, those are not recipes for the future. Those are cautionary tales and things that we never wish to experience and do not consent to. And it definitely seems that there are some not only plagiaristic and extremely uncreative minds at work in terms of who writes this shit and who creates the narratives that are connected to these things that are distorting reality. This people who are very, very uncreative. And so they are largely their minds are not connected to divinity. Their minds are largely an amalgamation and a synthesis of all the stupid books and movies that they've read and all the Stephen King horror novels and all the bad things that's in their mind, then again, amalgamated and distilled into an even worse slop. And this is not even AI. That's just the humans that are making this happen. Like someone who's smart in this class, as I was describing that, was like, that sounds exactly like how an AI works. Like that's like AI slop. And I heard your mind and I'm responding to you. And I'm like, that's how AI slop works because that's how bad human minds work because bad human minds created bad AI. That creates the bad AI slop. So that is how bad human minds work. When you are disconnected from divinity, I don't want you to be disconnected from divinity. If a person ever were so unlucky to be disconnected from divinity, they would have no original thought. They would have no inspiration. They would just have, again, the amalgamation or the continuation of their own ancestral bad patterns, all the bad ideas kind of running into and through them, and the bad things that they've read, in movies and TV and books, which is not necessarily the best stuff. So now let's contrast. I've just told you like bad stuff. Have a little like mental sorbet. And now let's go into how are you guided when you are connected to Christ and when you are connected to God? So Christ is like this beautiful crystal. My beautiful diamonds, darling. Christ is a beautiful crystal in your mind. And it is a connection to divinity, a multifaceted view of reality. It is nothing about rape or violation because the W ban is about non-consensual biological inhabitation and demonic possession, fictionally. And Christ is the literal antithesis of that. You cannot do this unless you're in love. And literally in love, not just like love with hearts coming out of your eyes, but love, like true love and respect. So one of the big things that I would always like for you to internalize the truth of is real telepathy takes place on a bridge of love. Real telepathy takes place on a bridge of love. Cheeky's over here. So, because I think about Cheeky, I'm telepathic with her a lot. If you are telepathic, you can be telepathic with animals. You can talk to an animal, you can talk to a plant, you can talk to a human being, but it must be done through love. So none of that necessarily means sexuality or affection, but it means a level of reciprocity and respect. And that level of love is also what we talk about when I teach you about sun gazing. So all these things that I teach to you, and when I guide you through how to fly like a lasagna and go through portals and fly in the solar wind, you are non-parasites. You are non-parasitic people. You are the people and organisms who are actually supposed to be here. And the other stuff that's not supposed to be here should be sent to entropy. When I first came here as Aurora, a lot of the things that I did was teach about sending those characteristics to entropy, like each one person being sorry about bad grammar, an amalgamation of multiple blended characteristics, some of which are positive and divine and bring you towards ascension, and some of which are not positive. They are pathogenic. They harm the fabric of space-time. They are distortions, and they lead to continued distortions in space-time, and they should go to entropy. And it is actually each person's own artistic masterpiece to do that within themselves. I give everybody the full respectful credit, and freedom-based opportunity to create that distinction within themselves. And that is absolutely what life is about. I've often used the analogy of how people learn when you come here, an angel on one shoulder and a devil on the other, even though, of course, I'm here to help you through Flying Rainbow Lasagna to resolve that duality. And we have to talk about the Bible and good versus evil and your conceptions of reality, your conceptions of what is good versus evil. But you must recognize the inner conflict that myth or metaphor represents is genuine, and free will is genuine. And each one of you had an opportunity since Flying Rainbow Lasagna in 2001, and you're here now, however old you are watching this video, to make changes internally in your life. Whether or not you knew you were doing the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, whether or not you put on dance clothes and put on music and did a dance, or whether you simply made choices internally to turn down the volume on pathogenic characteristics that might have been ancestral and trauma-based, and to amplify and continue to move onward through time the characteristics that are about being divinely connected, generosity, benevolence, that are positive and life-affirming and coherent. But that also, when I talk about these things, you're like, hey, this is easier, or like, I can definitely easily list negative characteristics versus positive characteristics. But some people might think that violence is an inherently negative characteristic. It's not. And I've had to exemplify that for everyone here. Violence is not innately pathogenic or an innately wrong characteristic. There are many times when humanity was attempted to be neutered through genetic limitations. And the Christian religion is one of those times to prevent you from being able to activate the violence that is inside of you for necessary and sacred purposes. It is there for a reason, and it is given to you by divine grace. In the same way that your arms, your legs, your eyes, your mouth, every part of you is given to you through divine grace. So it is not something that is a wrong or flawed part of your program that must be gotten rid of, but you must use it in a very selective and effective manner. So a lot of what's been happening here, I need to hydrate, is because you want to say, well, just get rid of all the violence, but that's not what Jesus said, and that's not actually the purpose of his life. And this is big. And it was like, who are you to tell what did he really say and the purpose of his life? And I think I'm gonna then maybe this video is not for you. Okay, thank you. Good. But no, let's talk about Jesus because he's in my notes from the curriculum. It's relevant. Christ Network and Jesus. I mean, these are all part of what I need to talk about. First of all, he was and is, because I think about him in an eternal, if posthumous presence, an amazing person. Really, one of the best people it is possible to be. He was very much a reformer, like a person who came here into a very, very flawed world and attempted to make it better through his actions, through his goodness, through his generosity, through his greatness, absolutely, through his own divine connection, and the life that he lived was exemplary. It is important for you to know this. Real magic is done through the body container of your life. You live your truth. That is why when people lose their souls, because they did bad shit and you can't erase it. Your life is sacrosanct by the decisions that you have made. You're like, I'm that person forever making that choice. It's imprinted upon you for forever. When people make really, really bad choices, they cringe eternally because they're like, oh, I made that bad choice. And now what am I going to do with it? So then Christianity in its flawed current perception and the dogma that I do not agree with is doctrine of infinite forgiveness because it is being used to abuse other people. As these technological, transhumanist, fictional techno-inquisitionists are misportraying this doctrine where you can hurt other people and then just ask for forgiveness and then magically wipe it all away as if you are children playing an imagination game, as opposed to really dealing with balancing the scales of emotional truth in reality. They are completely emotionally not evolved or mature enough to be able to be doing this work. That is why really I call this mommy issues in space. It's my shorthand to be able to talk about this. People who have not only, gotten their technology from Clank Clank Metal Spaceship using civilizations, for lack of a better word. Oh my darling, they are not civilized. I got off track because I touched technology. I know you can see it happening to me. No, they are Clank Clank Metal Spaceship using whatever you would call them, organizations, and they are definitely not very civilized. They use technology because they have to, because they do not have these innate characteristics. They do not have the innate capability to be able to fly through a solar portal using only their body form and to go anywhere without requiring like additional stuff, like no dilithium crystals or petroleum or something, like no fuel to kind of like make them go except for light. And you guys are really limited in the definition of and perception of what light truly is. But I can tell you guys, it is infinite. Humanity that is bad people not getting access to some of the stuff that they would want to get access to because they would do infinite badness, infinite doo-doos. No infinite doo-doos. So I do not make the infinite, well of energy available to some people because, and what I mean when I say I'm like literally here, Aurora, me in this physical presence here. I'm like, I'm not going to tell them about that. No. So please know that I contain an enormous amount of information, only a certain portion, which I have actually shared with humanity. I've also decided to stop telling humanity about certain aspects of the mechanics and the biomechanics and the time mechanics and how DNA connects to time, because humanity has demonstrated that the large portion of you are completely not worthy of or capable of or mature enough is the word I was looking for before to be able to bear the responsibility and the outcome of bearing the responsibility for what happens as a result of actually dealing with time. So no, that information will not go to them. It will go to you, people that are in my class, when we are in a much more pristine situation. So please know that right now our classroom is still like under bombardment, and there's dust and mud in the air. It's like, guys, I'd love to tell you about this. You can hardly even see clearly. Look at all this stuff that's in the air. Let's talk about that later, okay? And I'll teach you more about that later. All right. So please know I'm not holding out on you, but oh my goodness, I'm not just going to talk about that, because I really have seen how my words and other aspects of information that I came here to bring to humanity. I'm like, hooray, I know cool stuff. Let me tell you all about it. The evil ones, they're like this. They're like, tell us cool stuff. This is my evil face. Tell us cool stuff. We want to find some way to try to use it against everyone. And that's what they've been wanting to do. So, and that is also, it's par for the course. It's what Antichrist does. So, the enemy of my enemy is not my friend. This double negatives confuse you, because Christ is the original impulse. Christ exists. Antichrist exists as the antithesis. But don't put this into what you call the Hegelian dialectic. No. And I am not a very educated person, but I have learned about this. And that's what that's called. That puts you in, locks you into duality. That makes you think, oh, that impulse and anti-impulse are the same, and that they're supposed to be combined together to be able to create the third thing. No, my shoulders go so far down. No, sorry. Now I'm being like so silly. Like, no. And I promise I will not throw a tantrum. Because I'm like, pretending to be like an unhappy toddler. No, that is not what is going on. Christ is an impulse. And let's talk about the truthful nature of what Christ is. It is intelligence. Christ is full of actual information. So it's like saying the library is full of intelligence. I have also told you that this chakra on your body is analogous to your library card. It's how you get into the library. Your DNA is the library. And the information that it contains is very important and incredibly valuable. And it is also important for it to be pristine and not mushed up and sent off with errors in it. And you guys understand, like, even if you put a few errors into it, then that doesn't help. It's not like, I only put 5 errors in there. Go have fun. Because you can be like, where are the 5 errors? The whole entire thing gets messed up if you do that. And it's not your playground to play with. Not lecturing to you guys in this room here. I'm lecturing the virtual room to the evil ones who are messing with DNA. Think of all the scientists, all of the mRNA researchers, all of the cancer researchers, every single one of these guys that's running PCR tests, amplifications, and doing stuff with DNA has no effing idea what they are actually doing. How horrible. So, to quote my favorite show, like, this is the bad place. Like, that is definitely hellish behavior. That is definitely like, this world is not the bad place. This world is a beautiful, living, alive earth, but people are doing things here that are, through technology, attempting to malform it until it is like a hell realm. That's it. So you need to know this world is not hell. And also the people that are on the membrane of death and that are enjoying tormenting others, they have not actually experienced real hell. They have just experienced the elevated social status that comes with being compliant to the satanic regime. So the satanic regime is being destroyed, and we need to talk about the origins of the satanic regime and how that relates to the origins of Judaism and how that goes all the way back to ancient Egypt. I still need to tell you more about Christ and about Jesus, but Christ consciousness, Christ, who is the figure here, who's known as Jesus, and Egypt is all, I wanted to say it in a much better way, but I wanted to say, like, it all happens upon the backdrop of the Middle East and of Egypt. But first I have to press pause because I only got a small drink of water and I need more. So hold on, press pause. Let me just get some more water. Thank you. Let's grab the lever of time now and pull it backwards and go thousands of years into the past, into ancient Egypt. Also, prepare yourselves because I'm going to talk about things that are completely different, telling of the origins of Judaism, and that this might also be considered like offensive in polite circles in whatever regularly established human society. And I'm aware of that. Although I'm very pleased to see that many people have come forward now in order to reassess not only the generalized origins of what is called Judeo-Christian culture, but also their own familial origins and their own connection to deep ancestral trauma. I also have to come forward in order to decry the practice that is known as circumcision. It is mutilation, it is a crime, and it is part of the satanic empire and part of the satanic regime, even though it's been normalized in your society currently in 2025. Sorry, there's flying here, always during class. So your circumcision normalized during 2025 and whatever, like late 20th century in what is known as the industrialized world. It is a horrible offense. It is a terrible thing. Blanket apology, a genuine, sincere blanket apology goes out to all of the males that have had that done to them, where they were too young to be able to not consent and their parents did this thing to them. And it definitely has profound implications on not only the emotional structure and emotional landscape and emotional machinery of that human being going forward, of that, tiny boy that has had this mutilation, but also brain changes, brain chemistry, brain capacitation, and what you would call brain wiring or habits of thought and connection. It is a huge disconnection. It's the beginning of the emotional disconnect of sexual arousal, sexual arousal that should be from appropriate, loving, positive partners and towards violence. It does rewire or torment and coerce males towards sexually violent and aggressive behavior. It is a representation of all that is wrong in the Jewish religion. And we have to have this conversation as part of the 2025 current climate, political climate, especially in the United States, but this is really international because the alliance between the United States, and I gulped because I'm like, I have to say, a country whose flag is shaped like blue and white stripes with something that's in the middle there. That's the country. When I had a problem with my sound system recently, it's because I was in a meeting with a bunch of people and I was talking about that country that sometimes, always, looks in on people's video conferences, might make it difficult for you if you say the wrong thing. And they might mess with your audio card. Always use a power surge protector. So anyway. The original temple was built by demons. Thank you. And that was a joke that was so complex that it was hard for you to laugh along with me. And I never want to laugh like in that way. So now let's tell that joke in the correct way. So the original temple was, this is going back to the Bible. The Bible is ostensibly the word of God. It is actually the word of a demiurge or a stuck consciousness that is not a live being that contains really some of the worst, most pathogenic personality characteristics possible, and that has been grooming and psyoping humanity for a very long amount of time. When I said that this goes back to ancient Egypt, this actually goes back to a time when I was here and I was participant, but not as a physical embodiment person, as a non-physical light body person creature that had already ascended, because we're going to talk all about what happened in ancient Atlantis and what real ascension is about. And then also we're going to make a distinction between ascending in a world where nobody ever dies and ascending in a world where people sometimes die. A lot to get through today. And ancient Egypt is not how everybody portrays it. There was a time that is called pre-pharaonic Egypt, before the pharaohs, and is really in such deep antiquity that it is before what you know as recorded human history. So you cannot say that people actually lived and were extremely civilized back then because it doesn't fit with the linear narrative and agenda. So a very, very long time ago, in a time that it makes most people rationally uncomfortable to consider that people lived in a state of really, really high elevated culture and amazing things were going on. And it was a time when the pyramids were fully functional. And what they did, they had like laser light shows, not like Pink Floyd at the planetarium level of laser light shows. That's not, not false light, but real light shows involving the pyramids that you know at Giza, the natural light beings, stars, frequencies, things that you could feel in your body, things that you could hear. Like these were genuine spiritual and uplifting experiences, and they were informative. So imagine if you went to the Pink Floyd laser light show and you not only had like, if it wasn't machine generated lasers, but instead it was natural lights. And if the music that you heard was not the compositions of Roger Waters, but was instead the compositions of God, okay? And if everybody who was there had a similar divinely, benevolently uplifting experience with many new insights and positive behavioral expressions that come as a result, like get new ideas and do new cool stuff afterwards. That is what you would have. And that is what that era of civilization was like. And so I was part of the light show in the sky. And yes, there were many people who would be considered avatars in that time. So Jesus in the year 2000 of your present calendar, the year zero, 2000 years ago of your present calendar. I didn't say the right things. Jesus of 2000 years ago in your present calendar is one of these avatars, but they weren't having cool laser light shows at that moment. But what he was an extremely, extremely good person who was avatar. So what do I mean by avatar? The word avatar means avatar, one who has come across waters, a container for consciousness. It is also the literal definition of what the Greeks called a hero, in that the physical body was seen as a container for divine energy. So Jesus was a container for divine energy. He was born into an extremely troubled world, into this satanic culture that worshipped a false god by killing. That is not how you worship God. If there's any message that I can bring to you and really emphasize, is that you worship God not through killing a bunch of innocent creatures that otherwise could have a beautiful long life. When you look at me and you look at what I am doing in terms of entropy and the fictional activities in my book club, you want to be like, you're such a hypocrite. Look at you, because you are sending people or things or planets or whatever, not planets, but people, things, organizations, or matter to a non-being state and to enter. And like you, of course, there's going to be a loss of life. There's some things they're not going to be here anymore, and they're not going to be alive anymore, or they will be no longer alive, and then they will be sent to entropy. This is definitely happening fictionally in my book club. Be like, how about you? Or I thought you stood for life and not for killing. And the difference is, like, you want to kill pathogens. Violence is sacred. Use it to kill pathogens. And Jesus came here, and he didn't come here in order to say, be a passive, non-violent. No, stop it. I can't say those words. Because I'm saying he did not come here to say that, and it is only emphasizing it in your DNA. So please do not listen to the stories that you were told about the necessity of passivity and being nonviolent and accepting the violence of others being perpetrated against you, and then the extremely flawed doctrine of infinite forgiveness. So, of course, when I came here as Aurora, I came here as a person who is experienced in Christ, and not as a person with religious indoctrination, or any amount of knowledge about your religious history. Like, I came here and I learned about your religions, and I learned about the Bible, and I learned about your religious history so that I could critique it and tell you all of the ways in which it is wrong. So again, as a cosmic visitor, I did not come here knowing about or thinking about any kind of doctrine of infinite forgiveness. I was amazed and appalled when I encountered that flawed thought form. I was like, that is not truthful. So no, You are not in cosmic law allowed to infinitely hurt another person, and they are not required to infinitely forgive you. Full stop. That's it. Not supposed to. And also, even if you choose to be a victim and be like, okay, you can hurt. No, you can't. I can't say that because they're going to take this out of context. But even if you chose to subject yourself or present yourself for abuse, and if you even if you said with your words, let's just call it even. Don't worry about all of the soul-crushing debt you're creating between us. Let's just call it even, and you can just get off scot-free. That still would not settle the balance, because what you guys have to comprehend is that there is a huge distinction to be made between seeing on the anthropomorphic level and seeing on the abstract level. On the abstract level, there is math that is incontrovertible. I do not respect the math nerds of your world who make Starlink satellite systems who can't, emphasis, get that simple concept, and who think that they can do all sorts of things with the fabric of time, space, and reality and DNA distortion and not actually have to pay a price. That's it. You don't argue with the math, and these are the math nerds of your world, and they're creating and doing stuff that they think they can wiggle out of. You can't wiggle out of it. It's going to happen. I know. And if you, my good people of my class, are perceiving like, I think maybe Aurora's talking on two levels, you are correct. So the math is abstract and we can't argue with it. And there's no conflict between in the world of Christ, in the true, when I'm going to tell you about like the beautiful world and the things that I want to really emphasize here. There's no conflict between the brow and the crown. In your world of totally effed up sexual dysfunction and people who are chopping off tips of babies' penises to supposedly please your God, you got a lot of sexual dysfunction. I'm horrified by the level of sexual dysfunction here. And the baby penis chopping is only a part of that. It is only the tip of the iceberg. Horrible, horrible, out of taste joke. Definitely too soon. The things that are being done sexually here are an outgrowth of unhealthy sexual dynamics that are actually part of the invasion of DNA into your world, an imbalance that is here, that is known as the battle of the sexes, but it is not as pat and easy to say that just get rid of all men and then only have all women. And please don't ever misinterpret me as saying that. So I'm saying that's no. And it's very hard because I'm so aware of how much words are being really misinterpreted here, or words are ripe for misinterpretation. So I'm here in order to say that there are many genetic modifications that have brought humanity away from its divine antenna, and the addition of the Y chromosome is part of that. The Y chromosome is present in males. It is the definition of what it is to be male. I'm sorry to inform you, males, that part of the definition of what is inside of your body that defines you as being male has got problems. Like, it's not bad news. Sorry. And that doesn't sound very good, because it's like, well, that's easy for you to say, Aurora. Like, you're a woman and you've got XX chromosomes, and like I'm speaking as if you're a man, and I'm a man and I have XY chromosome. What am I going to do? I'm like, that's easy. You dance like a flying into the zombie, which means that you have the capacity to turn down the volume on the genetic modifications and flaws that were placed in you genetically in order to prevent you from moving forward on your consciousness journey. And that is the definition of what it is to be a man. So this is hard because I don't just want to be the opposite of the things that are flawed in your world, but in your world, as there have been many philosophies and religious sects, like SECTS groups, religious groups, that tried to say that you can only be an ascended master if you're a man. But that's not truthful at all. You can be an ascended master if you're either a man or a woman, but the truth is, it's much harder for you to do it as a man. And that the true nature of what it is to be a woman. And that's hard for you to hear. I'm starting to open the can of worms. Like, you hear like the can opening sound, click, and then the worms start to emerge, because you're going to ask all sorts of questions. You're all smart people, and these are some of the things that we really do need to talk about and that you need to know about that I've not talked about in class. The origins of life in Atlantis. Not where we came from, like the Nuria, but where did you people come from? Mommy, daddy? Where did I come from? How did babies get here? Did they have babies? Did they push a pram in Atlantis? Did they have sex in Atlantis? But we had new people. but we did not push a pram and we did not have sex. And we also did not have like a human being growing in the body in the way that that is here. So in this world, this biological realm of mortality, the rules are all different. Your bodies are all different. It's not a direct analogy of the things that were going on there. So please know that. If I tell you about the pristine and beautiful culture that I know as Atlantis, it is not the same. The humans who are there are not the same as the humans who are here. Maleness there is not defined in the same way as maleness here. Please know that some of the males who are here now were and are here then, but they were not like the distorted version of what it is to be male here. They were like the correct version of what they're supposed to be like. And a much better way of saying this, but please remove your current cultural filter of 2025, is that in Atlantis, each one of us represented a balance of both what you call male and female energies, and that it was not an androgyny or the type of transvestism and hormonal confusion that you presently experience, which is purely satanic in 2025. And not you in my class, but you are connected through the orange chakra to an incredibly destabilized world of people who are taking all sorts of very, very effed up hormones. That is not good. Because think about it like this. In your body, all of your cells talk together and communicate. It's called having a body. On your planet, here's the planet back here. All of your people get together and talk and communicate. And there's not a way for you to be like, well, those are the weird, screwed up people who take all sorts of artificial hormones and pheromones in order to try to look, act, or feel different. And then these are the people who are being normal. You all blend together. And then this thing comes along and makes you blend your energy field fictionally with people who are all doing sorts of weird things with artificial hormones into their bodies. So please let me, I want to say, sip my tea. It's not even tea. You know, in the Bible, there are all these prescriptions to say men are not allowed to wear women's clothing. This is far, far beyond your social comportment or something like that. It's far beyond your appearance. It has to do with your biological body and the way that your body has an impact on other people's bodies around you. So it is very, very different. A woman wearing pants, a man wearing a skirt, that is not the problem. The problem is the use of artificial hormones and the fertility, surgery, all these technological interventions that are a form of self-sacrifice, where the person is literally killing and sacrificing their original identity, and then the creation of an artificial persona to please the technological or satanic overlord. And the hormones, when they're given to males, really do make them a little bit, don't want to say the word crazy, because it does sound like, you know, when men from the 1950s say, you're crazy, your hormones are going crazy. But it does, it makes them crazy. Let me tell you why. Biologically, as I described the creation of a human being, the formfulness has female qualities to it. Then there is, in the gestational process, a particular hormonal thing that happens that turns the female baby potential into an actual man. And then, you know, other hormonal changes that happen later. But throughout that, and the person is born, they're a boy, they become a man. Throughout that person's life, their body and their testosterone hormone structure is always having to suppress the female or XX aspect of what is in their body. If the testosterone is turned off through some accident, injury, or pharmacological way, the person's body is going to exhibit a cellular expression that is much more like a woman. Like, not that they will all of a sudden become fertile and become pregnant, because that is a miracle that women can do. But in the sense of the things that are considered secondary sex characteristics of males would no longer be available to them. You know, like increased muscle mass and some of the other things, having a deeper voice or whatever. So the hormonal structure suppresses the female aspect in them. They become softer. Sometimes they develop man boobs. This is, you're understanding this. So the reason why I'm telling you this, because I kind of check in with your minds as I, like, as a class, as I tell you these things. Misogyny exists because there's an innate biological struggle in the male cellular body in our present world where there's the XY chromosome, where the Y is within a man, the Y chromosome and testosterone characteristics are always trying to suppress the female within him. And the inside reflects the outside, and the outside feeds back into the inside. As we are flying rainbow lasagnaing and creating a new world, we're not just going to devolve and go back into Atlantis. We have to evolve and move forward and create something new. We have to look at this dynamic that's in the biological realm. We have to look at how that created social and cultural outgrowths. Even in the primal human, before civilization and before the Judeo-Christian religion became a thing, these guys were goat herders. The reason why Judeo-Christianity became a thing is because these were barbaric goat herders who lived in tents. And they also were part of this world of being ruled by biological imperatives instead of a larger civilizing force. The hormones and the conflicts inside of themselves that they felt even back then in wanting to suppress the female internally became expressed as a desire to suppress the female externally. Let's talk about ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, women were supreme. This is not merely turning the patriarchy on its head or me as some kind of a modern day feminist from college campus bringing up all sorts of nonsense and trying to tell you all sorts of things and why you should be sexually promiscuous. No, not at all. I was here during that time as Aurora, but not as a person who lived in a physical body. And that culture was beautiful, really was. It's not the same as Atlantis. Was a good culture, but not all ancient Egypt was this way. But it's what you would call a matrilineal matriarchy, even though those words don't describe it effectively. But your mind is, most of your minds have been so programmed and structured by the patriarchy that you can barely even have words to be able to describe what our lives were like there. But basically, women own all the property. Women are divine vessels. Women are connected to God, bring forth life, and own everything. And you guys are all like, as I say that, you're all like, that doesn't sound very good because I hear women owned everything. So first of all, if women owned everything in your present world, you are worried about vengeance, ex-wives, and other things that you've heard, bad stories that you've heard, vindictive girlfriends who have slashed your tires, right? No, none of that. None of that. So here's what you have to know. In your present world, you're supposed to have partnership between male and female to bring forth life so that you can actually have a continued species. And women are foundational, required to be able to do that. Even in the male-dominated patriarchal society that you're familiar with in 2025, that world still values females enough to not wipe out females completely. And the Luciferian, transhumanist, technological, hands-made tale intentions show that. They don't want to just wipe out all women and then have a society of all men or all robots. They want to still have women because they want to have fertility. They want to still have women who will have babies. They still want to have women who will have ovaries and connections to the divine, to the beyond, to the world of the sun and the stars, to bring in new people. Because they know that you die off if you don't have that. And males don't do that. And what males are supposed to do is to feel a reverence for and a protection of that which is sacred and which allows life to come forward. So this also goes back to Mars. So what I'm talking to you about in ancient Egypt was divine, benevolent, positive civilization that was being fostered here on your planet, antediluvian, post-Atlantean catastrophe. But the Martian aspect of what came to this world absolutely took over, and that is called Satanism. That's the origin of Satanism. So let's talk about who Satan was. Satan was not an immortal, but a demiurge, because he's actually going to be destroyed through the actions on this planet. So it's like, think you're immortal, but it's not going to happen. But is a higher dimensional being, is a better way of saying it, a non-biological entity, and something that was contained within an active participant in the culture on Mars and the stuff that was going on there and the bad time machine there. And what was really happening with Mars and planet Earth is poised to create this amazing ascension experience. And Mars is like, I think I'm going to hijack your ascension, which is kind of like saying, if you're a woman, like let's say Earth represents a woman, and the woman has the capacity to imagine and bring forward something from this beautiful seed, this beautiful egg, that's going to give birth to a beautiful new reality. And then there's something over here that doesn't have a seed and it doesn't have an egg and it can't give birth to a new reality. And it's like, pouty, pout, pout. I'm sad and unhappy. How come you get to give birth to reality? How come you get to go forward in the genetic code? How come you get to do cool, fun stuff? I think I'll hijack your cool, fun stuff. That's what Mars did. Mars literally looked at the impending ascension. It didn't just create a crap time machine. It didn't just do bad stuff. It didn't just destabilize time, but it also like did so in a very strategic way to try to inhibit and be a part of the ascension at that time in our planet as well. And the same characters and the same characteristics are also active in 2025 in attempting to inhibit your ascension experience. The Jewish religion is the cultural origin and the milieu that gave birth to Jesus Christ, the mythological and historical and personal figure. He was born into a world where the male body is inherently at war with femaleness inside of itself, into a culture that was artificially raised up out of diminishment in a psychically elevated society because they didn't have psychic powers. So they were artificially augmented by an evil demiurge that pretended to be God and genetically modified them so that they would tune their genetic antenna to it as if it were God, told them that they were supreme, got them to steal the power origin out of the civilizing force, which is the Great Pyramid of Giza, and then set that civilization up in order to continue to go forward in oppression and suppression and consciousness reduction. That's the world that Jesus was born into. And I would not say that he contains within him those grotesque male pathogenic qualities that are about wanting to rape a woman. Like, I actually don't think that Jesus had on or subconscious desires that are about violation, rape, torture and dismemberment. And I'm looking down here because Chiki's over here. Some of the horrible things that pathogenic people do in the world. I don't think that he had that because I've told you, I feel like we are within the dream, the past 2,000 years. I feel like the past 2,000 years are all of us experiencing a historical dream that is an expression of the struggles that are within the man that we know from 2,000 years ago, who was a good man. This is an important part of what I'm sharing with you here today. Because look, I'm a woman and I'm the violet consciousness up here. And I have no question about who I am. All right. I know who I am. I know what I'm doing. And I know that I am in divine alignment. But I think that there's a question with males struggling within themselves. Males in maleness struggling with their divine connection, struggling with the definition of who they are, struggling with how they even came into being, struggling with their connection to male behavior across time. And the evil thing wanted me to say barbarity and the violence of male societies, but it is not. You can be violent and not be like these satanic violent societies that basically go around attacking Christ. And what they did with the life of Jesus is they twisted his true message and the true energy that he was giving to you in his transmission of being here and tried to turn each one of you, real Christs, into passive victims. And I don't accept that at all. And I do not consent to that at all. Because then through that disempowerment of you, I would say emasculation, through that disempowerment of each one of you as Christ, because Christ kicks ass, all right? Into the characteristics of what is Christ. What does Christ do? Christ kicks ass. Christ is law enforcement. Now, imagine that you guys are all people that live in the ghetto, like the bad neighborhood of town, all right? And if I say law enforcement, you guys are like, oh, those are the bad guys. Those are the guys that you call and they never come, right? Or those are the guys that come in and steal your stuff and, break your windows. They don't help our community at all, right? So when I say law enforcement, you might be thinking the wrong thing, but I am actually trying to say, because you guys, I'm trying, terrible analogy. Everybody got all mixed up on that analogy, so wipe it away. You guys have never experienced real law enforcement. So when I say Christ is law enforcement, you're like, oh no, these are the guys that come in for the shakedown. These are the guys that protect the pimps and all the bad stuff. And I'm like, no, not that type of law enforcement. Christ is real law enforcement. Okay? Christ is real law enforcement. Christ is the real law enforcement that people swallow the entire poison burrito of the book of Revelation in order to just get that tiny amount of nourishment that says, yeah, and then at some point, Christ the judge comes and destroys all your enemies. No, not after all this fucking bullshit, pardon my French. Christ is supposed to come immediately. Your mind is supposed to be a laser focus that incinerates all of that bullshit before it can even happen. You are supposed to be precognitive and anticipatory of these types of horrendous, catastrophic futures, and you are supposed to incinerate the people or potentials that would make that come forward, and that is part of what Christ is. Christ is profoundly benevolent. Let's have well, to open the door for you to go outside. We did do our walks. Christ is profoundly benevolent. Polarity positive is the way that you would describe it, but let's just say it is the inherent aspect and foundational nature of that organism. So you guys come out of a world where everybody's ambivalent. Angel and devil on the shoulder. Imagine a person with no devil on their shoulder and just an angel. That's Christ. All right? Polarity positive. And what this means is 100% good intention. It does not mean, as I have erroneously presumed myself, 100% sentience or infallibility. Can Christ make mistakes? I've experienced the mistakes. The answer is yes, because Christ should have done better in 2020 and 2019. And that has brought me, forward into, sorry, hold on a second. Hold on, guys, hold on a second. Hold on, sorry. I got to take care of Cheeky. Hold on. I'll continue on my rant. Hold on a moment. I'll take a little break. Thank you for allowing me that little break so I could take care of Cheeky. I'm refocusing back to talking about, is the past 2,000 years from 2025, back to the year zero, an expression of the inner conflict that Jesus Christ, the man, experienced? Not 100%. In my own experience of coming here and of, let's say, claiming ownership over the responsibilities for, being an observational creator, if I say I am God, I think maybe you guys might think like, what does she think? She's like standing on a mountain, like Moses or something like that. But in another way of thinking about it, you can claim ownership of your own divinity by recognizing that your consciousness is having an innate creational aspect upon the nature of reality. It didn't come through properly. So creation is when your own thought seed or potential for guiding the specifics of consciousness goes into the vibrating field, and you're both of those things. And you're on a journey, you good people, of recognizing and remembering that, and that's what the I am God moment is. You're literally creating those thought seeds into reality, and it's creating the moment right now. And yes, good job, you did it. You created the thought seed where one day you would watch a video of a woman wearing a purple dress who would say these things to you. Yes, you got it. You got it. But also, I'm not just a figment of your imagination. Like, I have a dress and a life and a dog who is hungry sometimes. Like, I'm not just some flimsy construct. I'm a genuine, real, substantive person. So in this thought form, you can go very profoundly into the nature of what consciousness is and recognize that it is all very miraculous. Yes, you have, each one of you good people in my class, considered and created the potentials for this future that you're experiencing right now, where you talk with me and experience these thought forms from me. And I also have done the same thing with you. And we have done the same thing with Cheeky. Let's talk about animals. Cheeky, good girl. Animals are not stupid at all. They're incredibly divinely connected and profound. Their sensorium is completely different than yours and mine. And it is almost impossible to communicate with them through the English language. And so humans who are very benighted don't know as much about what the animals are experiencing, but they are very, very amazing, and they're also part of consciousness exploring itself. I do need to tell you about the octopus video. So you guys want to? Oh, Cheeky's at the door now. So she does want to go out. Hold on. Sorry. Let's open the door. Here we come. Like, I know we had our little break. We had our little break, and now she's barking outside too. Okay, so let's use this as an opportunity for me to share my anecdote, and then we'll go through comments, and I'll continue going forward. Like, thank you. I know this is not like a very formal presentation in the way that I'm showing this in such a nonlinear way to you. But talk about the octopus video, because I also recognize that I am not a transhumanist and I do not agree to the transhumanist agenda. Sometimes the suggested videos, that come forward on YouTube, I think are put there for some purposeful transhumanist agenda, but I don't agree with that. But I did, so that's why I hesitated about like, was this video put in front of me in order to present some kind of false teaching or something like that? So I really kind of considered it, but I do want to talk about it with you because it has to do with like communication and imprisonment across the species. So it was actually a very impressive video of a person. The reason why I watch their stuff is because they're a piano player and they create all sorts of beautiful alternative musical instruments. Like, weird stuff that's really cool and creative with an excellent engineer's mind. So in this particular project, he decided that he was going to try to teach an octopus to play the piano. He went to the seafood market, he purchased an octopus that was alive, that would have been used for food, and he brought it home and he put it into an aquarium tank. And then he went through a series of very impressive ways with engineering to be able to develop an underwater keyboard and all these different ways that the octopus's little tentacles could kind of like touch on, and an underwater speaker, and he went through all this whole process and everything like that. And he tried to do a whole training process. And then, I want to give you, I don't want to like have you hold your breath for this whole entire anecdote. Like, I wanted him to set that octopus free so bad. And he didn't do it. He kept the octopus in the cage, and he considered it to be a somehow benevolent impression that he should do that he was somehow safeguarding the octopus from being out there free in the ocean, free to be eaten by something else, and instead that he was somehow divinely benevolently imprisoning it. I do not agree, and I do not consent to that at all. I also don't consent to this, that this one species that is known as a man, through his own hubris and ability to manipulate objects and be powerful with technology, imprisoned another species. And it was done for hubristic, whimsical purposes. That the guy was like, hey, I think I'm going to teach this octopus to play the piano. Like, it actually is noble to use a creature for food. That is actually noble. Don't torture them. Don't do bad stuff to them. Kill them quick and then eat them. That's noble. That is fair. But psychologically torturing another organism is grotesque and horrible. And this scientist, engineer, musician is so profoundly out of touch with what communication and life really is that he could not even comprehend, if he heard my critique and expose of him, that what he was doing is a grotesque form of psychological torture, not a form of education. So the first thing is the octopus was conscripted by this human. The octopus did not come forward and say, I'd like to audition. I'd like to be in the band. I'd like to go to Juilliard. Please teach me to play the piano. No. So first of all, total disconnect in the presumption that an octopus would wish to be rescued for such purposes, ostensibly rescued, imprisoned for such purposes that totally serve the human, that do not serve the animal at all. And then in order to use the octopus as the subject in this experiment, you must recognize the sentience and intelligence of the octopus. The guy's imprisoning something that is obviously intelligent enough to learn to play the effing piano. You're imprisoning another organism. My face says it all. Shocked and horrified. For your own stupid purposes. And just because it's not overtly illegal doesn't mean that it is okay. It is overtly evil. It is evil to do that. And he was so out of connection and out of touch with what divinity is. At one point, I was watching the video. So, of course, he has this little piano that is submersible. He puts it into the tank, and then the creature plays on it. And at one point, the creature was being naughty and refused to touch on the keys and do all these different things and was waving its tentacles all around. And I was like, dude, like, you're so stupid. Your octopus is clearly talking to you through tentaclese, through tentacle language. do through mime and dance. And the human was like, bad tentacles. Stop doing that. Incomprehensible. So I really watched something that was like emotionally distressing to me. And then I had to process my emotional distress. And then I didn't want to process my emotional distress in front of you as a class because you have enough emotional distress to process in your own lives. But there are a lot of important things there in order for you to also comprehend it is not divinely benevolent to whimsically imprison or torture another creature. What one thing hubristically thinks is intelligence is not what the other thing thinks is intelligence. Why in the world would this stupid octopus wish to perform for stupid you? Why? What's its motivation? Like there's no benevolence, there's no motivation. It is not reciprocal. It is not loving in any way. And then as I'm watching this thing, I was thinking like, okay, like great, this thing is over. That he sets the octopus free. And then this guy was really so benighted that he thought, no, it is better for me to keep the octopus. Here's the key point in a sterile cage of isolation. If I describe to you what this cage looked like, you will cry. It is maybe about this big, and it's just a glass cage with water in it. And he had thrown like a couple of dog toys in there. Like, like with like rubber, you know what I mean? Like dog chew toys in there. And it's like, well, who, sarcasm, wouldn't want to be imprisoned in a sterile coffin without any stimulation, without any members of your other species, or anyone who you can actually talk to who speaks tentacles, who speaks octopusese, and with no hope for escape, and depending upon your captor for your food and your sustenance. Like, that's horrible. And that the guy who made the video thought that that would be actually ostensibly preferable to swimming around in the ocean, being completely free, and making one's own choices in self-determination, and possibly having an accident, misadventure, or becoming someone's dinner one day. How terrible that would be to actually have a community, walk around in freedom, and talk to other animals and things that you can actually relate to. Disturbing, distressing, but that actually exemplifies the mentality of the captors that you are presently fighting against in your struggles for consciousness freedom. And these are the guys that are the fictional hydrogel soldiers that run on this particular type of energy field. Elon Musk and his Starlink gross fucking satellite system. That's your glass cage, keeping you in here, preventing you from connecting effectively to the ocean of consciousness, is not benevolent in any way. And there's really no ability for you to communicate with your captors. And I'm at a loss to be able to kind of like synopsize this. Like everybody's like kind of like reeling. Everyone's just like emotionally reeling, like, oh, I know, I destabilized you by telling you this, but so let's just like press pause on that. Let's do some comments, then we'll get back to it. Don't worry, I won't leave you emotionally destabilized. Oh, yeah. Rainbow Body says, saw it. MK Octopus, disturbing, horrible ending, PTSD inducing. Thank you, Rainbow Body. Thank you for commiserating with me on that. And I'm glad to know that you had a similar level of like reverberation. Like you reverberated on the level of like, that's terrible. That's horrible. That's wrong. I can't believe that. And identifying with the unwitting subject of the experiment and not the evil abuser. And
yes, and there was one other thing real quick.
Please do.
At the end, when he pretends that he's going to, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. At the end, when he pretends he's going to, repatriate this octopus back to its wild kingdom, it's like a fake. He gets there, all of a sudden he says, but I didn't put him back in because this was no musician can live in the real world. And that is what they have done to people who think of themselves as musicians. They've all been in an octopus tank. If you listen to their songs, they're miserable. They're so lonely, all the singers. So I just thought this is an interesting slip. I'll just put it, I'll put it that. Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for adding that. And I love your decoding. I really appreciate what you just said because I forgot about that part. That through his cultural lens of being told, like, being a musician is impractical. You're not allowed to be a creative person. You must be this or you must be that. And a lot of that level of exploitation. And I agree. I agree with what you, no, I don't agree with level of exploitation, but Rainbow Body, I agree with
Mhm.
your expression there. When we
Thank you.
look at, we're supposed to have rock and roll heroes. We're supposed to have musicians in our world who are
Mhm.
literally our champions that guide us and inspire us. Like, not like battle songs, but like that get you going through life. And music is incredibly powerful, and music has been very hijacked, and the music makers have been very hijacked. It's because it's so powerful, because frequency is so powerful. Like when I talk about the, Pink Floyd laser light shows versus what we did in ancient concurrent, Atlantis or even the beginnings of Egypt. Those were amazing expressions or concerts or free buffets, banquets of frequency. And what is presently being expressed is very non-nourishing and yes, imprisoning to the people who have creativity. So let's just do a brief little foray into talking about rock and roll and things like that. I have a deep passion for music. I love music. When I first came here, I did not know a lot of your songs at all. And I had to totally learn, from whatever, listening to the radio and then eventually going on, looking at videos on YouTubes and things like that. Like I gave myself a rock and roll education. I literally approached it in the same way that I would learn about a culture. Like if you went to another culture, you're going to be like, what matters to these people? What matters to these people? What are the songs that matter to these people? What are the rhythms that matter to these people? What are the lyrics and why are those lyrics and why those people? Why those groups? Why are they important? Why are they good? And then I, marinated in all of that and distilled down into what my present musical expression is. So, in order for you to know, like, I have learned the music of your world, of this like very satanic, screwed up world, and of course, like I gravitate towards the best parts of it and totally ignore and block out the worst parts of it. Imprisonment of the beautiful, vital souls that are the good ones. So right now you have a very satanically captured music industry. Say it again. Right now you have a satanically captured music industry. In fact, in 2025, you really have the worst level of music industry where you have not only satanically captured, but you also have our artificially created, like AI created stuff that is slop. And then you also have the slop regurgitating itself and then being listened to AI listeners on Spotify. So you just have like a slop regurgitation and then artificial listener feedback. But the problem is that means that you're not getting any of the corporate money and it's intentional. It's all parasitism. So you just have like a parasitism that's going on right now. But there have been some really great souls who have been here. Like here's a clear example. Kurt Cobain, great soul, amazing person. And also I'm happy that I can hold them up as an example because it's a person who's in a male body, XY chromosome, okay? A man, a boy. And that's a good person. And he didn't kill himself and totally didn't deserve to die. All right. And also, please know, like his life was also horribly distorted and used in very, very bad ways. Yeah. And so, yeah, it's possible for me to talk about some of these people. I'm trying not to focus on celebrity or fame, prurient interests or things like that. But please know, like was an amazing person and connected to the Christ Network. And they totally did like a lot of imprisoning things to him. And it wasn't just him, it was that whole community in the Pacific Northwest at that time. And all those musicians up there, they did soul traps basically. So the Satanists did a lot of soul traps. So this is what we're talking about in terms of musicians. And this is like not a total endorsement of every Nirvana song or every single thing that Kurt Cobain ever did. Please never misinterpret me there. But he did not kill himself, and his soul was very unrestful because people were lied to and thought that he did. And then it destabilized a lot of emotional people here and made them go on to do the same thing to themselves too. So that's just, please know that that is not the truth of his story. His story is much, much deeper than that. And this is not just meant to be more like celebrity gossip or, like I said, like prurient interest or something like that. It's meant to be an example of the way that the music industry in the satanically captured world took people who are amazing, divinely connected, white hot geniuses and then surround them with lots of bad stuff, lots of bad substances and bad, evil people and degenerate sex and all this different stuff, and then see if they can imprison and destroy their soul. So yeah, no, he was killed by members of his entourage. He was not actually suicidal or killing himself at all, and was very, very badly sabotaged in his life. So I'm trying to bring that when I try. Sometimes I try to bring something forward, and it just causes like more bubbles of perturbation. But like I tried to use it as a good example of someone who is here in life, who is genuinely, of the angelic nature and not of the demonic nature, and the innocence. There's a purity is a better word. There's a purity of their soul, and it comes through in their voice, and it comes through in their being, like in their comportment, in the way that they are. It's what people call being cool. Also, like not coolness, like some fake affectation or whatever. It's just like, do you understand? Like Kurt Cobain wore like the ugliest sweater in the world intentionally, and everyone thought like that's really cool. Like that is very cool. He had an amazing amount of what sometimes people call like charismas, like the charismas of the saints. And again, this is not meant to be able to talk to that you're like, should we worship Kurt Cobain? No, nothing like that. But this is about the energy of admiration, the energy of idolatry, the energy of imprisonment and lack of empowerment of the object of adoration. And then also we can talk about soul imprisonment, like Lady Gaga, or the creature who created the alternative persona known as Lady Gaga, killing their arch rival in art school to be able to steal their persona, hold them in kind of like an interdimensional, soul box, and then draw energy off of them they can use for their bad, crappy music. Imprisonment and exploitation. Like that's all you need to know. The exact details you can focus on if you have a desire or a need, if you need to learn from it. But mostly details will be digested away and won't matter as much. Just know exploitation and imprisonment. And it matters a lot in terms of music, because you might think like, oh, does it matter if this person is over here like playing the guitar, if you hear this or that? Music is supposed to be like the foundation of your life that makes everything happen. It's not some, peripheral thing that comes and goes. It's really supposed to be hugely, hugely important, which is why it's been so diluted and degraded. And I mean, like, I know I want to stay focused on Christian religion, but this has to do with more than the Christian religion. It has to do with inspiration and ideas and creativity and what you would call artistic genius. Artistic genius comes from Christ, and it comes from being connected to Christ. It comes from divinity and from, sorry, I got distracted because my dog is barking outside. I'm not sure if it's hearing. It comes from truth, like when you are harmonically connected and correct, you are expressing perfect divine truth. And that is also like your instruments are in good tune, your music is in good tune, your lyrics are in good tune. Thank you. Hold on a moment. I am a little bit distracted. This weird second. Don't worry. I'm going to get into lots more comments over here because you guys, I'm sure, have a lot to say. But we're talking about someone like Kurt Cobain. I think that he was MK Ultra, mind controlled and distorted, and a lot of musical entertainers and people who sing are that way too. But I want you to know, since a long time, but definitely since the Charlie Kirk assassination, like you are all now like MK Ultra victims, sorry, or mind control. You've all been MK Ultra. This is terrible. This is coming out all the wrong way. But I want you to feel more like it's not just them or like a small group. Like the government is abusing a small group in a laboratory somewhere. It's all of you. It's all of you right now. So wait. Kim Rose says, this reminds me of the dolphins abused by John C. Lilly in the name of research and consciousness. Terrible. Thank you, Kim Rose, for saying that, because I also am equally distressed by that. If you guys don't know what it is, you can look into the movie that's called Altered States, and that's the fictionalization of John C. Lilly's work researching LSD, which is actually like not a great consciousness expansion thing. Don't believe the hype all around it of what it's actually doing. But he did all of these experiments with dolphins and had a whole house built where even it had like a couple of feet of water in it intentionally, and the humans and the dolphins lived there together. The dolphins were swimming around, but it's psychological torture because dolphins and animals and whatever octopus, they don't know what is going on. Like in that house, I think with the dolphins, I think that they were able to, I'm not sure if they were able to come and go or if they were wild dolphins or what their level of captivity is, but like the octopus, all it knew was like it got taken out of the fish market and then put into a cage somewhere, like caught in the wild, put into a fish market, and then put into a cage somewhere where someone did weird shit to it that it did not comprehend. That is soul destroying because we are here to learn. We are not here to be experimented upon by idiots. We are here to learn and to grow. And when you learn and grow, you internalize truths about reality that help you to propel you forward. You're like, oh, this happened because of this happened because of this. Every other fucking octopus in the world, gets to live its regular octopus life. And it doesn't have to think, why was I put in a glass cage? And what the fuck was that black and white thing that they put in front of me? Sorry. Every single other octopus gets to live its real life and find octopus partners and go around eating crabs and shrimp and whatever they like to eat whenever they like to eat it. Their food was not conditional upon participation in a human torture with technology. Key point technology. Key point technology. The human wanted the octopus to be fascinated by and interact with technology, and the octopus was like, I don't care about this thing. Give me a crab. That is what I really want to do, interact with and eat. It's the primal consciousness and doing what it's supposed to do. And you know what? None of us who are here, who are real Christs, are interested in technology either. The technology is being used as a crutch for very, very not empowered, not gifted people. And the whole story of Judaism is the elevation of not empowered, not psychically gifted people usurping power and then suppressing the rest of the world. And that's the world that we currently live in. And okay, I know. And so all this is fictional too. Just be sure of that. Okay. This fictional religion that is called Judaism. Let's look at this one. Kim Rose. Oh, Kim Rose, you have a lot to share with us. She graduated from a 2-year Bible college. Denomination is called Pentecostal Assemblies of God back in the 1990s. She spent years nurturing a relationship with Jesus and taught others. Now she has a colossal task of teasing out what parts of the Bible are true and what parts to throw out. I don't want to reject the whole thing, but should I? Thank you for this question. And it really helps me. I'm going to get to all of the questions and comments, but like you're gold and really valued because I really need to get back on track to the meat and potatoes of what we need to talk about here. There's very, very little that is of good, genuine spiritual guidance in the Bible. I really call it satanic technology because it has a tiny amount of truth in there, a lot of lies, and it's also been used in order to totally distort people's generalized worldview and also to distort their day-to-day, moment-to-moment existence. So what everyone is supposed to do is to experience your genetic antenna tuned into God, and God tells you at all times what you're supposed to do. Not a voice in your head or anything schizophrenic. A deep inner knowing is supposed to guide you, and that's your crown chakra, and it's through your DNA. And then through the anthropomorphic lens, you might interpret that in the human realm. And the stuff that's been going on with the Christian religion has to do with interpretations in the human realm not accurately matching empirical truth effectively. And that there are, so let's go back to even in the origin, what is wrong with the Bible? That you can't just use it as a generalized handbook for goodness or take the behavioralisms in there that work and then leave the rest behind. Because the answer is the Bible and the Torah specifically is an expression of a sacrifice religion. That is purely satanic. The Torah must be written on animal skins. It is also, of course, in many synagogues printed on physical paper, but it is treated as a living creature. The Torah is the Old Testament. It is the, of course, verbal oral transmission of the information that was originally ostensibly given to Moses in a, mountaintop experience directly from God. And it's been very faithfully transmitted for over 5,000 years through human history. It's part of what is known as recorded human history and the foundational document of your current culture. But the things that are in there are not healthy and positive things. And the foundational worldview is the prayer to a wrong God. And the culture that made that is a culture that came out of people who didn't pray to God, but they had divine communion. They had union or actual divine experience. And the divine experience cannot be expressed through words. It is why people do things like take LSD, because you have experiences and informational transmission that you cannot express through words. It is also the concept of guru in Asia, but I don't condone guru because it has become a very corrupt system that often involves sexual exploitation and other bad things. But it is fair to say that there is a non-physical transmission of energy between the disciple and the student that should not be sexual, that should never be sexual, that is uplifting and helps people to learn. And it's truthful. Like, I do a lot of things and I teach you guys over the Zoom. It is different and so much better when we can flying rainbow lasagna in person. It's always better that way. And it's why the control structure and all the 5G hydrobot people want to keep us stuck in the Zoom like some Black Mirror episode. And then, we're just connecting virtually. But no, it's hugely important for us to be in each other's physical energy fields and to have that level of camaraderie, definitely community building, friendship, and rapport. And there are some things that just don't translate through the false light filters of all of the technology stuff. There's very little good stuff in the Bible. I have explored all these different things from the perspective of being a person who knows what true Christ is and then exploring what the Bible is. So also the Old Testament is different from the New Testament. The New Testament I have a lot of criticisms about because I consider it MK Ultra mind control, and I consider it to be a religion that is created not just as an escape valve for people who have hit rock bottom, but as a thing that makes people hit rock bottom. So these two things are also very, very different. Let's explore the first proposal. An escape valve for people who hit rock bottom, people who are like the worst sinners. They did bad stuff. They did this and they drank this and they injected this. And then one day they want to change their life. So they're like, God, I'd like to change my life. We'll go over here, put on this white dress. Someone's going to dunk you in a bunch of water. When you come out, you'll be like, I'm a new person now. I'm going to be different. And it gives them an opportunity to try to start a new chapter and to express themselves and to be different. Everybody does deserve an opportunity to be different. I think that the baptism is facile, doesn't actually do anything to change or reduce the debts that a person has achieved previously in their life. And the concept of baptism and eternal forgiveness can be infinitely abused. I'm a terrible person. I'm Hitler. I'm going to kill a lot of people. Oops, I did a bad thing. Dunk me in some water. I'm going to put on a white dress and now I'm going to feel all happy and cleansed. Time for me to go genocide again. Forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. Hey, I feel great. Thanks for that forgiveness. I think it's time for me to get out there and murder a lot of people again. Time for my baptism. Like that is, what's that called? Again, when people game the system, that is a system that is ripe for being gamed. And when you think about the New Testament, it not only has a lot of conditional love in there, that is about you're only good enough to get into heaven if, or you will only be seen as acceptable or loved by God if, but also a lot of erroneous stuff about what you have to do to get into heaven. Which brings me to why the show The Good Place is my favorite show. Not just because I think it's hilarious at times, but also because it helps to give me a common language to talk about things with you guys where you are on your journey about what it is to be a good person, good versus evil. And the show talks about codification of behaviors. Always do this, never do this. This is what it is to be a good person. So the post destruction of ancient Egypt civilization viewpoint states that they were all barbarians. The ancient Egyptians were all barbarians. Girl, they didn't even wear a bra. They just walked around totally topless. Can you believe it? They were barbarians. And Bazinga, they didn't know what they were doing. And then all of a sudden, the civilizing force came along. That is Satan, that you're actually worshiping through the Bible. And that the civilization that was built after that is somehow helping humanity to rise up out of the pit. We have to talk about this decoding of the King's Chamber cutaway, Like if you do some like new age YouTube conspiratorial research late at night, like smoking pot and eating cookies and looking at videos on YouTube. I'm joking, of course, but you know. All right. You're gonna come upon these videos with the cutaway of the pyramids, and it's gonna show you like the king's chamber. So in a less hilarious way and a more accurate way as a teacher, if you look at that diagram, I won't take time to touch technology. I'll just act it out with my hands. This is like the pyramid. And of course, it doesn't have its little capstone anymore. And then if you looked at it, there's a entry over here that humans have discovered. There's a thing that slants down. It goes all the way down, it goes into like a pit. They think that this is decoded as a timeline of human history. Humanity's going down to the pit. And then all of a sudden, oh, this is when humanity receives the Bible. And then the trajectory starts to go upward, and you get all these interesting chambers and all the way over here. And then this chamber is over here. And then this one is going to be 2012. And then this one's going to be this. And then this one's going to be the end of the world. You got it? Like all of that stuff is not only manic and not truthful. And this speaks to this. When people have a partial awakening of their inner vision, and they start to see some stuff through their Christ chakra. Sometimes they see some stuff on the anthropomorphic level, but they don't see everything, and they make wildly wrong misinterpretations. So there's a big difference between being able to see letters and being literate. And there's a big difference between being literate and correctly interpreting something. So I am not very good at poetry at all because I'm extremely literate. That means that when I read something, I think it is exactly what it says. So if I read a poem that says her face was a rose, I'm like, I know her face is not a flower. It's got to be something that's, you know, a similarity, but not exactly the same. This is what I'm talking about. Your ability to interpret something has its a symbol. She didn't really have a flower face. It was a symbol of beauty, right? So when you look at the world through your inner eye, which is what Christhood really is, and I think that I'm going to say some things that might be difficult to hear. I think that Jesus, who is here, was in Christ, and I think that he didn't know everything. And that might be difficult to hear. I think that he was a profoundly good person, and I love him dearly. All right. And I think that he made mistakes, and I hope that you can hear that from me. And I hope that that's okay, as I also know sometimes like I am hilarious and I make jokes and I'm lighthearted and I do this and that in order to break tension. But also like it can be difficult to hear that level of criticism. But when you look at the journey of restitution or going back up to God, going through all these different layers, and this blue is not the end of the journey. And it's really, really important to get all the way to violet. Please hold all questions till the end of the tour, and they will all be answered. I think that Jesus Christ and the man who was here, who was actually named Yeshua, was a master on the level of anthropomorphism, really did comprehend and know human behavior. Like if I were to characterize him of what type of a person he was like, very good with people. Like me, I am very good with numbers. He is very good with people, like understanding people. I am not very good with people. To tell you the truth, I am not very good with people. No, I can't. That's not because saying these things like makes it truthful. But like, let's say up until this point, I have struggled very much to comprehend human motivations, to navigate human dynamics, you know, do and say the right thing. That's me. Also, my spelling is terrible. So that's also how you can tell that it's the real me in case you ever get any of my emails or any of these other things. But yeah, no, but you can also understand that from me. Like in my life, and not that I don't enjoy talking with people or the work that I do in direct sessions to try to help people, because I really do want to help people. But I have always been the most comfortable in abstraction. That's in doing things that are about math, frequency, numbers, color, line, shape, and form, being an abstract teacher on that level. But Jesus Christ was really more like a teacher on the level of talking to people about their lives and helping them in their interpersonal dynamics in that way. And when I told you the story about the good place, it's not an adequate exploration of right and wrong, because what is right and wrong changes from situation to situation and circumstance to circumstance. And that is part of the divine math. So one day it is the right day for you to eat whatever, an indulgent chocolate chip cookie. And another day is the right day for you to eat something super healthy, like whatever, like grilled chicken or something like that. Gotta eat what's right for your body at the right time. And it's not always the same. So in relationships, it's like saying her face is a flower. It's actually very difficult for me as an abstraction to be here in the world because I'm like, I do not get it. I do not understand it. And please, reminder, not that I wanted to turn this in this, sharing today into a commercial at all, but I really do want to remind you, deadline for signing up for my retreat is coming up very soon. It's American Thanksgiving. It's in a couple of weeks. So please, if you're interested, you got to get your application into me, and then I'm working everything out with everyone for your invoices for your tickets. So all payments must be received hopefully by the end of November. So if you're interested, please reconnect with me. But I say that because I love to talk about these things in retreats. Usually we're around the table or we have beautiful fireplace or campfire, and I have all the most amazing, beautiful place set up for us in Sedona that has both indoor and outdoor fireplaces because it's going to be December and it can be a little chilly there. So it's too chilly to have the fire outside or have the fire inside. But this is what the primal human does do. This is what we primal humans do. We sit around the fire and we talk. And we talk about our lives and we tell our stories. And telling stories and being story holders, story keepers, knowing someone else's story and listening to their journey is a big part of growth. And so this is what I learned from being here in the world. If I hadn't come here, I would have been a very, very abstract abstraction. Been like, yep, like I know all about color, line, shape, and form, and how all these different, things like fit together and everything like that. I wouldn't really know about some of the things that you learn from looking at other people's lives, like other people sharing their triumphs or their difficulties, or like me, their hilarious, not misfortunes, but miscommunications, because I do not understand a lot of things, right? But I'm also polarity positive. So I'm very, very well intentioned. I see that you just unmuted yourself. It's okay if you'd like to say a little something. Please do. Please do. Share with us.
I just want to say something for those who haven't met you in person. Sometimes people might be like other dimensional, higher dimensional. What does this mean? And Aurora was just saying, I don't really like work with like similes and metaphors. They're very confusing. And I remember we were on our way to visit her in her apartment, and I said something like, "We're going to pedal as fast as we can." And when I got there, Aurora said, "You are on bicycles?" And it was so sweet. It was like one of the most incredible moments of my spiritual life. I fell at your feet and said, "Yes, I found my teacher." Anyway, sorry, just had to say that.
No,
So adorable.
no apologies. I'm laughing so much. That's a perfect example. And I really thank you for sharing that here with everyone. Yeah, I'm so pleased, Rainbow Body, that you were able to come here and visit me and see all of you're a person that I've known for many, many years. Very, very pleased for you to come and be able to see everything that you usually have seen, only on the screen. And I think it also is an excellent example of my literal nature. And so most of the mistakes that I've made have been like that, hilarious mistakes made out of literal nature and also just super innocent. Like, I really do believe you. If you tell me that you're pedaling over to my place, I'm like, sure, sounds great. Like 700 miles, right? Like you pedaled 700 miles to get to my place.
Oh my goodness. Okay. There's more. I'll just let everyone speak. Bye.
Please do. Oh, thank you. And something, I think we can probably go as long as we need to today. So don't worry, there will be plenty of time. We'll do some more talking. Definitely be able to share some stories at the end of class as well. My extremely literal nature, I'm just retuning back to my extremely literal nature. Yes. So, like I have gotten very good through talking with people and learning about your lives and your dynamics and the challenges that you face, at giving good advice and also contextualizing things that are happening. Because I'm not just going to say, well, like 1+1=2, humanity, like deal with it, like let the chips fall where they may. I'm like, well, people's lives are at stake. It involves people's car insurance and their payments and their daycare and their this and their that. Like I really do now understand that, but I did not come here understanding that at all. So a lot of the interpersonal work that I've done has also been about even being able to see what needs to be fixed in the world. Like I need to fix the harmonic abstractions and, radiate outward greater levels of truth, but also how does that relate to your need for better grocery bills? Again, when I first came here, I did not even comprehend the food room. or the magical pieces of paper. I did not know what needed to be fixed here. And this has been really a over 20-year-long assignment at pinpointing, making an assessment. Like I'm a very good debugger of the things that are wrong in the system so that you can have a good life. So I know what people need. I know what is right in the world. So to contrast that, Jesus, Yeshua, he knew all of that. He was, or let's say, was very comfortable in those levels of reality. He's like, yep, I know what people need, and they need this and they need that. But here's what I don't think he was good at, or where I think he made his mistakes. I think he made his mistakes in math and in areas that he couldn't anticipate, where he was ignorant of certain things. So now this relates to our concept of, can a Christ be flawed or ignorant? Can an embodied Christ be flawed or ignorant? Can the Christ network be flawed or ignorant? What happened in 2020? Lots of bad stuff happened in 2020. I would even say, very sadly, and with so much grief, like I think that the Christ network has been either disrupted to the point of almost death or death. And that is difficult to say. The Christ network is a giant amalgamation of ascended masters and benevolent, coherent light consciousnesses across the galaxy and multidimensionality. It's very, very big. It's not just one small species. So if I talk about, like the reptilians or something like that, or technology using space races, like that encompasses a variety of different physical embodied creatures. The Christ network represents not just myself, Aurora. I am part of it, but a lot of other levels of consciousness or types of organism as well. So I am a part of it, but it is not synonymous with Aurora. It was attacked in 2020, and I was attacked in 2020. It's very, very sadly, I don't think that it survived. And I think that these are fractal, true catastrophes that we are experiencing or have been experiencing up until this point. The death of Atlantis, catastrophe. The death of Jesus, premature death, like the murdering death of Jesus. And then the death of the Christ network, or this, larger benevolent network of otherworldly consciousnesses and civilizations. The good news is that the satanic network is also destroyed. So that's positive, but the order of operations happened, and that was a terrible joke. First, Christ got destroyed or extremely imperiled and whatever amputated, and then I destroyed the satanic network. So there's no one out there. That's good. I'm silly. It is good. It's actually terrible. And out there is not just places where you can fly in a clank metal spaceship, because now we're talking about time dynamics. So it's about where you came from, where your consciousness origins from, where is your DNA heritage, who are your progenitors, and who are your descendants. And right now, all the civilizations that gave rise to you and influenced you and brought you here are dead and gone. And also, I am working to make certain that the negative characteristics are not going to be proliferated forward into time again. So you're having a very, very big purge, and that's also what's been going on, why there's so much turmoil, like since Halloween in 2025 of this year, where we are, because we're still in ancient Egypt. I'm still telling you stuff about ancient Egypt and trying to tell you about this stuff. Where you are in 2025, and also I'm experiencing so much mental interference while I'm trying to tell you about this thing. Antichrist sharpshooters are really trying to prevent me from being able to speak effectively to you about these concepts. So don't worry, I certainly will focus and be able to get to it. Thank you. I'll just do a little bit. I'm thanking you in the class for like allowing me to be a little bit fragmented in that, because I definitely lost my train of thought on there. Let me do this. I just looked at this comment and remembered I have to go back to exploring the validity or non-validity of any aspect of Judeo-Christianity. I think the entire religion is invalid, not only because any circumstance that tries to codify good behavior is going to be invalid, especially in an ever-changing place where circumstances are always updating and lasagnaing. but also because of the origin of the religion, where it came from, who created it, and it's really the purpose that it serves, the ostensible purpose that it serves is a non-divine purpose. And I'm very critical of Judaism and the outgrowth of off-branching Christianity, but I'm also very critical of Buddhism and Hinduism, but just my focus isn't there for today. And my warning right now is mostly regarding the concept of Antichrist, just because that is a Judeo-Christian or Western cultural concept that is not that prevalent. There's not the anti-Buddha or the anti-Brahma or the anti-Atman or the anti-Krishna in Buddhism or Hinduism. And right now there is an egregore, or not there is. There was up until this point a concept of Antichrist that is being exemplified and embodied and explored by very, very evil people in your world. And it's not supposed to be a recipe, but they have treated it like a recipe. So they looked at the book of Revelation in the Bible and they said, let's do it exactly like this. And they followed those prescriptions in order to try to bring about something that they think, I won't even ascribe motivations, in order to try to conform to the events described in the Bible, which is a type of mania. And so, okay, the Bible is satanic technology because it runs on sacrifice. A book such as the Bhagavad Gita is a retelling of ancient mythology, lore, and spiritual teaching that does not have to be written on the skin of an animal. These are two totally different things. Or think about any uplifting pamphlet that you might ever have read, or whatever, any health and beauty routine, anything that you have ever read that added to your life. It can be written on anything. It doesn't matter. It's only the Torah that says this. It is really blood sacrifice to add to the satanic architecture that strengthens the activity on the membrane of death. It is not a handbook for being a good person. And so much of the philosophical discussion that is in your world right now, exemplified by the show The Good Place, is about the Judeo-Christian values that come from the Bible and the viewpoint of what God is from there. So there are a lot of very, very good biblical scholars who have helped me. I have looked into this guy, Dr. Litwa, Litwa. And it's hard for people to even get a job when they talk about these things, because they're like, you're not allowed to talk about God that way, but it's not God. So it's like, you're not allowed to talk about the God of the Bible in that way. Like, if you want to go work for like some Catholic, university or whatever, can't be like, hi, I'm Professor so-and-so. I'd like to teach a whole entire class all about how the Bible is wrong and your God is actually evil and a version of Satan. And they're like, I don't think that will hire you. You understand? Like, it's very, very difficult. So your whole entire educational system is captured. Your ivory towers are all captured. And of course, scientific materialism is all captured, but you're not really getting genuine spiritual teaching in the Bible. Okay. Jesus, when he was here 2,000 years ago, actually went on a spiritual quest to give him the nourishment that he wasn't getting from his own religion. There is an incredible lack of information in the original Old Testament about afterlife. Isn't that amazing? The Jewish people didn't have a teaching about afterlife. Mostly their religion was a transactional quid pro quo with an invisible God that they haggled with to get what they wanted. Like, I'll give you 3 doves if you'll give me a good harvest, or I'll give you some of this if you give me some of this. And God's like, okay, it's done. Let's make it happen, like some mafia boss chomping a cigar. Done. Make it happen. Next. And then also, if you don't do the right thing, much like the mafia boss, you will have your violent, abrupt end to your life, or possibly legs broken. And this has also been translated into people's concept of what you think is good and bad. You think if you please God and do the right thing, God will give you rewards. And if you do the bad thing, then God will send you mistakes, misfortunes, accidents, terrible diseases, or kill your children or whatever. That is not what is going on at all. That is religious abuse. And that is an indoctrinated religious abuse worldview that has been imprinted into humanity so deeply. It is hard. It's like wrinkles so deep, hard for me to iron it out of the fabric. It's deep ancestral trauma, deep personal trauma. And then in the process of socializing, when each one of you is coming forward, like you're a tiny child, and your mom is or dad is teaching you right from wrong or whatever is happening. And you might also go to church, Sunday school, or whatever, Hebrew school or something like that. You might go to synagogue, and they're going to teach you what they consider to be the values of being a good and bad person, but it is more indoctrination and um, additional trauma on top of the trauma that already resonates through the body. And when you add circumcision to that, which is an inherent betrayal of the trust that children have in their parents. Like when you get born here, you're like, I'm coming here. You better take good care of me. Please don't chop off pieces of my body. And then a few days after you come here, they chop off healthy pieces of the body with no anesthetic. And it is an incredible betrayal of the tiny soul that has no ability to comprehend what's going on. Like when you put an octopus in a glass cage and stick weird mechanical keyboards in front of its face. It has no idea what is going on, and it does not comprehend that. And some people internalize that as they must have done something very wrong. And there's a lot of people who are in the physical world of Earth thinking that it is hell because they have internalized their negative religious abuse and MK Ultra programming as they must have done something very, very wrong in order to experience this. No, you are as innocent as the octopus at the fish market. You don't deserve any of this. And the key point is that all of this has been anti-learning, because then you wonder, what the fuck is God? Does God really exist? Well, who would do this? Who would allow this to happen? How could God allow this to happen? Very, very valid incomprehension, valid inflammation in your brain, and anger and anxiety that comes as a result of all of that. I am here to validate all of that. You have to comprehend that everything here is far away from what it is supposed to be in terms of the ideal blueprint of God's creation. And you have a lot of distortion and a lot of hijacking. And that's why I'm trying to teach you about direct reality connection through connecting to the sun and through connecting directly to your DNA and through creating time and generating futures. So the prayer and intercessional prayer and sacrifices at the temple. This is what a lot of people think religion and being a good person is. So some people think you have to get an animal and kill it and give it to a god, and that's being a good person. You know, that is feeding a demon. Some people think that what you have to do is repeat a mantra over and over. That can be something like Hail Mary or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 over and over. And that also does not make you a good person. That's psychological abuse. You know, these are the things that happen in people who have obsessive compulsive disorder. There's like a brain neurotransmitter and reward dopamine, receptor problem that like they don't get the feeling of like you get the reward or you did the right thing. So they do things over and over and over. And sometimes they're completely random, arbitrary, meaningless things like touch the doorknob or whatever it is, touch your earring. And if you don't get the reward sensation, like, I didn't touch it right, I have to go back and touch it again. Like, these are totally random things. Touch the doorknob, touch your earrings. These things have nothing at all to do with being a good person or actually navigating reality. These are, at best, old wives' tales, not correct. At best, folklore. These are, at best, folklore, and at worst, harmful prescriptions that take you out of the moment, that do not actually help you to be a good person. So what we have, like, well, what if I want to repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as my mantra in my head over and over? The problem is it takes you out of the moment, and the constant verbalization in the mind disconnects you from the sun, which is where you're actually supposed to be connecting. So in this telling today, of course, I want to talk a lot more about the actual coherent family of light that is actually trying to come through the solar portal. But you're going to be like, are they really there, or did they get destroyed? And then who's there? This is why this is hard to talk about. So now I'll have to stop, and I have to tell you, you've all been MK Ultra because of the Charlie Kirk assassination. And now what I have to bring to you is the most cogent warning of what they're trying to do in the United States, which was to have President Trump pass on somehow, either through, misfortune or illness, and then his vice president, J.D. Vance, to come up as some kind of like a evangelical leader. So here's what I have to say. Right now, there's propaganda that is really, really The only thing, false light. Right now, human beings are not being exposed to actual information or actual news. Right now, human beings are only experiencing an enormous amount of false light and propaganda. There's an artificial narrative that is trying to be manufactured by the manufacturers of false light to say that there's a Christian revival going on in the United States. There is not a Christian revival going on in the United States. This is like when they tell you, there's this new restaurant that's opening in town. I hear it's the hottest place to be. Like, that's a lie. They're just telling you that to try to get you to go and eat there. None of these mega churches and Christian revival places are true places where you're really going to get connected and go to God. All right. I used to go to the local church here in my town. And I went there with my dog, and I went there in order to make sure that they weren't getting energy siphoned, because these people, I think most of them tried to be a good person, and they were praying to what they thought was a real God. And the fake imposter God was like, yoink, I'll take all of those prayers because you're praying to me and fake imposter God. And I'm like, that's not fair. Don't let that happen. So no, all of these people's prayers go to the real God, not the fake imposter God. And I'm cosmic law enforcement, and I'm making this happen. All right. So if you want to know like what's going on, be like, I've been working hard and doing what I can do. But the problem, so the rest of cosmic law enforcement, you're like, Aurora, where's the rest of cosmic law enforcement? I think that they got destroyed, actually, if you want to know the truth. And this is a very large job for one person to do. So I'm, doing the most that I can, and also constantly expanding. Getting rid of the 5G will just help my job immensely. So if you ever want to know what you can ever do to help me, please envision the destruction of the 5G, and that will definitely help me. I know I probably should have not said that so overtly, but it just slipped out fictionally, of course. So anyway, attending church is mostly an energy harvesting ritual that is not about actually becoming closer to divinity. The peril is the technological inquisition that they would like to erect and expand. It's already been here behind the scenes in the United States. It basically was created by scientists and by DARPA. The real intention was to create a false Jesus and a false ascension. When I said that the book of Revelation is meant to be a cautionary tale and not a handbook for reality, this is what I'm talking about. The technologists and very, very evil people and dark magicians who have been trying to destroy reality and subvert your free will have been trying to create this type of, whatever illusion that there is, first you're in this pressure cooker of a hell realm, and then there's the pressure released by some kind of a savior, a kind of manufactured savior. And of course, I'm fighting against them on every single aspect of this. And that is a big part of what I am here to do as Flying Rainbow Lasagna, even though I didn't initially say that in coming here into this world. But the Flying Rainbow Lasagna, it changes reality so these prophecies do not actually happen. And the people believe in these prophecies, and it is a mania. Like when a child scribbles on the wall and you say, who did that? And they say, it wasn't me. It was Batman who scribbled on the wall. Like, it gives them a way to be able to evade responsibility for the things they've actually done. And then there's also, I'm talking now about the Satanists who really truly have believed that they were going to somehow be rescued by clank clank metal spaceships. Now look at 2025, a supposed stellar object called like your third eye atlas, which is literally your third eye in your atlas bone in your brain. And they named a comet after this. Like, you have to appreciate some amount of the comedy that is being presented to you, but don't disassociate from it, because it's really, really bad stuff. But it's like, this is some good repartee that is happening while you are fighting for your life from profoundly evil creatures. Basic rule of thumb is that if it's a technology using species or anything that involves any amount of plank like metal spaceship or physical object to fly through space, you don't want to have anything to do with it. Okay. So mostly comets go too close to the sun and they get vaporized. Light beings don't get vaporized when we go into the sun. We're like, I think I want to go directly into the sun. When I go into the bath, my dog looks at me like I must be crazy because she hates the bath. She's like, don't get wet, whatever you do. She thinks the bath is terrible. We call it the dreaded bath. I love the bath. I'm like, oh, this bath is fantastic. I can't wait to get on in and totally soak it all in. That is what light beings feel like about the sun. We're like, hooray, I would like to dive directly into the sun. I would like to dive directly into the world of pure light. I would like to have the world of pure light, like go directly, like open your mouth, like little baby bird, light comes inside of here. That is exactly what you want. Yes. And you're not intimidated or scared at all about this in my notes, because what is it to be an ascended master? Like Jesus was an ascended master. What is it to be an ascended master? You're made of pure light. You have nothing to fear. You're not going to be destroyed by the inundation of light. But evil stuff has a lot to worry about in being destroyed by the inundation of light. The horrible satellite system has been to block out the inundation of light and to try to prevent you from being able to receive your ascension. So I already alluded to that's the same type of thing or fractal nature of reality going on or about to happen in ancient concurrent Atlantis, in that layer of reality. Elon Musk, Bill Gates, a lot of the scientific technology users who created not only the apparatus in the sky, but also the tiny apparatuses in people's bodies, and also the weaponization and misuse of frequencies are all bad characters and bad characteristics that come from Mars. And these are all invaders to our solar system and not shadow work that you have to integrate into yourself at all. These are parasites that you need to get out of your world and out of your planet. So the narrative about Third Eye Atlas ties into also grooming that is being done in your alternative media in, right now in 2025 about undersea parallel inhabitants of this planet. So that's the next thing, which they are trying to, they in quotes, former power structure, or the powers that were, grooming you through implanting rumors into alternative media to think, believe, and expect that there are undersea civilization clanking little spaceship using extraterrestrials or aliens who have ostensibly been here in a parallel culture for a long amount of time. And that they're either going to come out and reveal themselves and say, hi, we're here, we're your overlords and masters who've been here for a long time, or that they will fight with the people from Third Eye Atlas. None of this is real. None of this is real. But all of this plays into grooming, expectations of reality, attempts to portray artificial illusions in reality, and basically false light. What really matters is that you know that there is a political class that they are themselves manic, like Elon Musk, if he still exists, is a maniac, literally, like the definition of clinical mania. He is manic and actually genuinely believes that he's going to harness all of your bioenergy through this energy harvesting stuff that is going on technologically. And then somehow he's going to create a clank metal spaceship for himself to fly away from all of this, and live somewhere else. But he doesn't have life force anymore. He needs all of you guys for his life force. He's like vampire. And then he's somehow going to still remotely harvest your energy like a vampire while he's escaped, see you suckers, but you're somehow left in prison. Like, you understand that does not make sense. And you're going to start to see fracturing of the narratives of these people. I struggle to find the word to describe them, whatever they are, that are not connected to reality. So it doesn't matter if he is on paper a person who is very wealthy, has a lot of ownings or property. He is not connected to reality. Many people, I'm sure, will not, no, I won't say that. It's believable, it's possible that people would join him in his mania, and that he might have some ability to be, what is it, like, when you can convince other people, like charismatic, and he might be able to use his money or his charisma to convince other people to come along with him. But the narrative is going to fracture apart. Like, it will just be a terrible waste and not something that actually either propels him off of the surface of Earth or anywhere else. But this is like a distraction and a waste of resources. And when you are ascending, you need to be super efficient. You do not need to have a bunch of parasites steal your energy from you or have a distraction like this. Now we need to get to ascending in Atlantis versus ascending now, and what the final assessment is like when you're ascending in Atlantis. So in Atlantis, everybody ascended, no one ever died. It's like, ho hum, another person is ascending today. But no, we did not take it as a matter of course or take it for granted at all. In that world, we all performed heroic feats every day. It was normal to swim across the ocean. Anybody, not anybody, but many of us did that. And to eventually fly or float or to climb up and down mountains. Like we did things that would be considered supernatural or at the level of a superhero, like comic book superhero in the world that you're familiar with. And then after living a life of high adventure for hundreds or even thousands of years, we would have the experience of going up the mountain. And the experience when you're living for hundreds of thousands of years, first of all, you're like a battery where you are connected to the earth and you're connected to the sky at the same time. So this is a world where you're not getting parasites. Nothing is eating your energy. You have all of your energy. The earth has all of her energy. The sun and the stars have all of their energy. And then you have all of your energy. And that's it. There are no putis. There is no one from Mars stealing your energy. There's no whatever time bandits. There's a cute movie. There's no time doo-doos destabilizing your chakras or creating friction in any way. And also you have total precog. You can see and anticipate everything. You know what's going on. It's a lot easier to inevitably ascend under those circumstances than it is in your present circumstances. And also you definitely did not die. I think the big problem with the Christian church and the doctrines that are created there, one of the big problems is not only infinite forgiveness and behavioral stuff, but it's also afterlife stuff. The expectation of what is going to happen after you die, because many people are being programmed for a reality that is like a pocket world, putting their soul's journey on pause instead of having them move forward in freedom and possibly even being imprisoned and exploited for hundreds or thousands or billions or however long amount of time. Bad stuff. That's the satanic space roller coaster at the end of time that I try, not for people to think about, not that I don't want you to think about it, don't bring it forward, but also like don't have an expectation of it coming. Oh, the words were terrible there. I don't want to encourage you to think about and have an expectation that this will actually come forward because I am doing everything I can to send those souls to entropy. But it used to be a contraption that contained the unrestful dead. And it's easy to make garbage. So I have a lot of big valid criticisms of Christianity. The idea of rock bottom, the doctrine of infinite forgiveness is related to hitting rock bottom and degradation. And the religion doesn't just take people who are naturally degraded, like, oh, look at that. Oops, Mr. Bill, I fell on down. Oh, I'm degraded. Now somebody help me, lift me up. Jesus, lift me up. Now I'm up. But people who voluntarily go down or are pushed down because don't worry, there's always going to be Jesus to lift you up. So it's not just like a religion that is a belief system designed to collect people who have no hope otherwise. The assertion that you would not be able to ascend otherwise. Don't go out there swimming in that ocean and possibly get eaten. Live here in a glass coffin because it's dangerous out there, right? And that you're somehow being kept from that level of pure spiritual freedom for benevolent purposes. No. So I'm glad you can tell my face says it all. Total sarcasm there. And also condescending, what it's called, whatever, like, to be patronizing, like a patriarch. Like, no, there, dear. You don't need that whole giant ocean of consciousness to be in. Swim around in this small tank and it will keep you nice and safe. Like the concept of Christian heaven, the octopus in its tank, and the true intentions for the actual Satanists are all negative imprisonment, exploitation, fractals. There are also rug pulls, so please don't think that your tormentors and abusers would actually get what they deserve. Would actually get what they desire. They would get what they deserve. So please don't think that your tormentors and abusers would actually get what they desire, which is to be on a floating hell world where they could always torment you. They would get what they deserve, which is to be tormented themselves. So the rug pull that was being set up for everyone, like the Rockefellers, the Rothschilds, King Charles, like these giant, rich, fat asses, right? They have been tormenting you and also creating Starlink satellite systems and all of these things to torment the peasantry, thinking that they would be rewarded by their satanic master in afterlife hell realm where they would be treated like royalty. And instead, they were going to get rug pulled, where they were going to be treated like regular assholes like anybody else. And that would have been delicious to Satan. But that's not going to happen, and because I'm destroying Satan. So just know that that will not be on the palette to, continue the satanic empire, but that's what would have happened to them. All right, so I'm not sure if that's helping in any way, but I think it should be satisfying for you to know, like, yeah, like they would have been tormented too. They're not going to get an easy ride. No, they're not going to get an easy ride. But also, you don't want to have this giant time tumor in order to have that moment of satisfaction. So I'm here to communicate to you that's what would have happened to them, but that's not what's going to happen to them, because what's happening is a resolution of all of these souls. Concept of where you go in your afterlife and whether you should be stuck in a heaven realm or whether you should fly in freedom and where you should actually go. All of this does emanate from ancient Egypt. So now we're into ancient Egypt. We were still in the time machine in the matriarchy. Wait, let's be in the matriarchy for like 2 more minutes, guys, because in the matriarchy, all right, so the women run everything. We own all of the property, and we own all of the property because now we're in the biological realm where we have to give birth and have houses where we do stuff and have stuff for taking care of babies. So our bodies and the way that our bodies are designed and the way that our priorities are designed are about having property. It is important for us as women to have property because you have to have a bed, a crib, a sink, with diaper pails, bottle washers. I mean, I've never been a physical mom, but you physical moms know this, and anybody, who's been a dad and been, supporting your wife and all these different things, like, that it takes a ton of equipment. Babies take equipment. You need equipment to make life. Anybody who is a rationalist or one of these horrible male hydrogel idiots says, why do I need all of that? Because if you want to have the next generation, you actually have to have that. And in the present generation, in 2025, the men are all like, why do I want to take care of my wife? She wants me to put up curtains and make the place look so nice. I don't want to do that. And it's like, if you want the next generation, you're actually supposed to do that. And you have this stupid thing that they call the battle of the sexes, which is unbelievably fucking dangerous, destructing, and ridiculous. You're not supposed to have that. So in your brain, you're supposed to have your Christ chakra and your crown chakra, and you're not supposed to have them fight. They're supposed to fucking work together. Sorry. I should not be saying that. I should say it in a nicer way. But they're not supposed to be locked together in mortal combat, which is how you guys look at marriage in the battle of the sexes in the realm known as 2025. It's like, find someone that you hate enough to marry them and destroy their life. This is like how you're laughing. I'm happy. That is meant to be funny. Like, hi, son. Like, I hope you can grow up one day, find a nice girl, and marry her and destroy her life. Like, that is not good. That is not what marriage is supposed to be, which would be like, a constant power struggle and constant struggle for domination. And that's the type of innate externalized power structure that you see from the outgrowth of the goat herders who were rejected by the matriarchy back in ancient Egypt, and the time that I am most familiar with that culture. That those people who were the goat herders that had a mostly male-dominated society, they were not psychically present. They were not, like, imagine they're not good musicians. They didn't go to Juilliard. They couldn't play. So they were like sent off to go do some menial tasks. That was their job. So it was, to be more clear in how I'm sharing this with you, the original matriarchal society was a hierarchical meritocracy that was based upon psychic powers. And the women ran everything because the women had the strongest psychic powers and knew everything and how to do everything and owned all the property. And that was actually the closest thing to what you would call in the physical world, like a paradise on earth and a beautiful time and place that you would actually want to live in. Almost unimaginable, not diametrically opposed, but very, very wildly different than the world that you're familiar with in 2025. When I advocate for a return of the matriarchy or this type of female-centered world, I am advocating for a return of that level of sanity, not for an enslavement of the males. The males were not enslaved in that world. So in the world that you're in right now, where males have become very harmful towards women and have enslaved and exploited women in enormous amounts. And the hydrogel males are the worst because they are the males who cannot compete according to their physical bodies. So in the world of transhumanism and the technocracy, I call them the computer nerds. And they're largely unhealed, meaning they have not worked through their own personal maturation process and processed their traumas. And they are still living their lives as if they're in a John Hughes movie. Now, those are movies where the jocks beat up the nerds and the nerds feel bad and then the nerds get revenge. Let's call it Revenge of the Nerds. I don't think that was by John Hughes, but this is a famous movie. Okay, good. Starlink Satellite is Revenge of the Nerds. All of these Doge kids, Revenge of the Nerds, they are all using augmented implants and hydrogels, fictionally, in order to feel empowered in the world, and especially to be empowered over women if they feel they have been rejected by women for being unattractive or inadequate as mates. In the matriarchy, as it is correct, women determine who is going to be born, who is going to exist. If you're in charge and you're a woman, you get to say, I don't want to have sex with you. I don't like your characteristics. I don't like the way you look or treat me or do stuff in the world. I don't want to bring that forward into the next generation. The world that you're in 2025, that's not that way. That's why you're in a very, very fucked up world. Because for a very, very long amount of time, women's power to do that has been diminished. A lot of it has been financial or economic. I'm always never sure which is the word to use, but based in money. Money. We did not use money in this ancient level of Egypt that I'm talking to you about, or our commerce and markers for money and value were wildly different than what you presently know as economy, which is largely an expression of what is an outgrowth of ancient Sumeria, which is from about the past 5,000 years and coincides with the rise of what we know as the patriarchy. So no, we used money very differently back then. You could never buy and sell a woman. And there was no such thing as dowry, of course, which is buying and selling a woman. And you would not ever want to be with a man who is not a good man, no matter how much fucking money he has. That's very different than the world that you live in 2025. There are many women that I do not agree with at all who are betraying what it is to be a woman by choosing to have a baby with a man just because he has money. He's passing his money on to the next generation. No, you're supposed to pass your DNA and your genes and your characteristics on to the next generation. And what you have is a distillation of the worst genes from the most evil people carrying evil soul hijackers through various generations, becoming the richest people, and then women saying, here's my uterus. Put your gross, disgusting fucking offspring in there so that they can keep on being monsters in the future. Horrible. No, as a woman, you're actually supposed to have standards and not only want to have babies with someone who has money, but to follow your inner heart and your divine guidance and actually be guided to procreate with and build a life with and build a community with someone whom you genuinely love and care about and who genuinely loves and cares about you. So female gold digging aside, that is an outgrowth of the many, many hundreds of thousands of years when women have been bought and sold. Like right now, you got women who are like, okay, I'm going to the highest bidder and they're selling themselves. That's because for a very long amount of time, women weren't even in control of selling themselves. They were the object bought and sold by others because it is so valuable to be a woman. And I have to tell you this because there is a need in 2025 for a complete reevaluation in your mind of what are the definition of these words, what is it, what is valuable, and what is good. And the transgender bullshit is different from transvestitism. This is a corrosive, soul-crushing practice that is totally satanic that has been put into your world for the purposes of diluting and destroying womanhood, not out of respect for womanhood, out of a envy of and hatred of innately natural womanhood, and then corrosive impostership not positive impostership. I will not be attempting to put commercial monetization on this sharing. We'll just try to get it out there under the radar. Yes, because I'm also very aware of woke culture, formative woke culture, and the need to call people chest feeding parents as opposed to women who breastfeed their children. And all of this is anti-God. You understand? So when I talk about God, we're really talking about things that are natural. And science has totally betrayed any aspect of like devotion to the exploration of nature. Like science is totally done. Rationalism and everything from the 1800s and supposed enlightenment has projected so many falsehoods. You're supposed to learn from nature. You're supposed to learn from nature, not be like, nature is so natural. I think I have to stop it from being natural and find all sorts of ways to technologically make it different. Got it? Like putting hormones into people to make them different. Each one of you in this class, and you are the best of humans. Like, thank you for being good. I really would encourage you to keep going forward with your body in the way that you can. Be as natural as you possibly can. Like, that's it. Like, you know what? Like, I wear contact lenses so that I can see. It is needed. I'm not an android, but I do need them. All right. My dog takes heart medicine. Like, she uses it to stay alive. So do the things that you need to keep your body alive, but please try to be as natural as you possibly can. Please don't criticize my hair color. I am not a natural blonde at all. Okay. So that's also recognize that. I'm not trying to tell you, I'm not a hypocrite. Dye my hair. Oh my God, I would have so much gray hair if I did not dye my hair. Just please know that. Yeah, no, because I'm not like 85. Okay, that's why I don't dye my hair. But please treat your body in the way that you can to keep the most natural and supportive of your natural bodily processes too. Like do the things in your life that are going to help you to stay alive and to treat your body like the beautiful, natural, alive container that it actually is. So, because when we talk about spiritual attainment, it's not like, oh, like eating food is so gross and burdensome. I just want to become a clean digital computer and then I won't have to eat this stupid food anymore. I'm like, no, no, we love to eat food. And this is the optimum container. And eating physical food and connecting to nature through your food is actually the optimum thing to do, not to try to live off of some like invisible frequency food. That is not what you're supposed to do. And when you become a light eater, that is not the same as these like horrible hydrogel people that are trying to eat you and turn it into frequency food and then have it sustain them in an anti-God way. All right. So I haven't finished my warning. There's so many different things to talk about, but like this is a warning that's like a political warning that's about the United States, but it's also really about the whole entire world because the whole entire world has been poised to expect the regime of the Antichrist. And I'm telling you, like, you've already lived through it. And if you want, because the book of Revelation talks about the mark of the beast. We're just talking about like religious stuff right now. We're not really talking about anything else, but there are some things that are definitely fitting the description of what the mark of the beast is. But here's like, I have so many criticisms. Like if it were an actual prophecy that was made to protect true Christians, to say, if this happens in your communities, like, don't do this. The only problem is the book of Revelation doesn't say that the mark was transferred from person to person. It just says that the people who took the mark did it in order to fit in so that they could buy and sell and be a part of the world of commodity. And it says that it gave them sores or it made them sick, right? So you can understand that. But it didn't say that it was transferable. And that's a major flaw. Like if you think that the Bible is a transmission from God, like warning, 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 don't do this, don't take the mark of the beast. It should also have said, and don't hang out with people who take the mark of the beast either because it might rub off on you some way. Don't have sex with them. Don't be around their effluvia. Their stuff might become your stuff. And because also this is the force field that makes their stuff your stuff. And it's totally unfair. That's why you're being graded as a group up until this point, and I'm destroying that stuff. Then as opposed to being an individual, you should only be assessed on your individual soul and what you have done and of course what you haven't done, and then take your consequences based upon that. So what's supposed to happen is all this light is supposed to flood into our world. Some of you are like, hooray, let's eat that light. And some of the people in the world are like, ugh, all this light is making me cringe because it's just highlighting in the most painful, friction creating way all the ways in which this person is inadequate as a person, all the bad things that they've done, all the bad things that they've whatever experienced and then can contribute to, and then also all the bad things, the good things that they haven't done, the ways in which they have fallen short of the expectation of who they were actually supposed to be. Those people would be very, very inconvenienced by this, which is why they've created these worldwide networks for blocking it out. Blocking it out has only delayed it slightly. It hasn't stopped it. So our planetary ascension is still going to happen. It is an inevitability. This planet here has been used as a type of experimentation realm. What happens when the immovable object hits the unstoppable force, right? Two things collide. What's going to happen? And in some ways, it's being used as a very grotesque experiment to see what's going to happen. I already said that too many times. But what has actually happened is the experimenters have been destroyed by me. So you need to know that you have been a part of this very, very unfair weaponization of ascension, attempts to inhibit or stop ascension, and attempts to siphon energy off of ascension. Because when it's something that's going to happen and like the sun is going to do this, or the world is going to do this on this day, or this energy will be released or available in this way, the evil, the parasite level tries to come forward and take and siphon that energy. And this is what's been going on literally like the past weekend or so. All of this energy is coming in, like we are really having this experience. And some of you might go into skepticism because you're like, I felt this way back in 2017. And then, rug pull. And I felt this way back in 2019. Rug pull. And I felt this way. No, it never happened. No, don't internalize that. I acted that out so that you would not internalize that, so that you would say, hey, these guys keep on trying to get in the way of planetary and personal ascension. I better get rid of these guys. Because the truth is, you're not going to be able to do what you need to do and reach your spiritual attainment with those guys. And this is what is very different about our time ascending from Atlantis versus our time ascending now. That was the most important thing that I could possibly get out to you. It took me 2 hours and 48 minutes because I had that insight this morning when I was brushing my teeth. And I'm like, I have to remember this. I have to tell it to them. There's so much connected to this. How do I say it? Okay. And apologies, just clearly throat chakra interference there. A ton of interference in my mind and in my ability to express myself, to be able to get those concepts across to you. So let's go back to ancient Atlantis. And we focus on that level of reality. Ascension is a beautiful unfolding. That is the natural, I don't want to say effortless, but it is the natural end result of your life. The Bible programs women to expect that childbirth must be about pain and discomfort, when I don't think that it inherently has to be experienced in that way. Again, never had a baby myself, but I do know some women who have been able to do really good things in terms of having a healthy, supported pregnancy, doing great things with prenatal yoga and taking good care of themselves, doing good things with low stress and proper nutrition, and then having a super supported delivery to the point that their birth was minimally painful and very celebratory. And also their recovery process afterward was positive and their body was restored. Very, very few women that I know have had that type of experience. But there's a thing that's in the Bible that says, like, now you're getting, remember the angry angel that I don't make fun of, but like, I don't agree with that painting. It's like, mean angel, get out of the garden. And then Adam and Eve being like, whoa. That's the story of the Garden of Eden. And it says that after that, humanity was cursed to toil in the soil, labor to bring forth your food, and that women would bring forth children in the pain and discomfort of childbirth. And I don't think that it has to be pain and discomfort. I think that that is a expectation that is programmed in, and then medical science and male-dominated obstetrics has turned it into something that is very, very painful. Definitely. Definitely. And I would just tell you, if there's one thing that I think should be a female dominated industry, it should be giving birth. It should be giving birth because these are the people that actually know what they're talking about. I know you're laughing up there. Tell us what's going on.
Well, I had I knew a woman who was a midwife and she's
Yeah.
always looking for the most progressive things. Her group went down to Peru to meet with the Peruvian shaman women who assist birth, and they learned all this stuff. They had an interpreter, and at one point, once one of our people, this country said, "What do you do when a woman tears?" And they all got very quiet, and they were talking amongst themselves. And then the one looks back and says, "Why would a woman tear?" I just thought I had to say that. It was revelatory for me.
Thank you. That is actually really important and good sharing. Even in 2025 and modern times, it is not culturally consistent that everybody has difficult delivery with the necessity of some kind of surgical intervention afterwards. And absolutely, so much of it is about body care leading up to birth and pregnancy. And then also there are other things that are about, when I said supported delivery, body posture when women are giving birth, like, and also birth is about frequency and portals. Right now, human hospitals are so full of negative non-life supporting frequencies that when women go there to deliver and they are surrounded by the beeping machines, the Bluetooth and all of that, it creates stress in them, stress in the baby, diminishes their connection to divine intelligence. Like, you should definitely be giving birth someplace that is much more connected to nature. And if you can't be fully in nature, have at least less technological bad crapola around you while you're trying to do this thing that is literally a miracle. Like, you're just trying to perform some miracles. You need some help and some assistance from the people around you. And think about our planet. This painting right up here, our planet. Our planet is just trying to perform some miracles. Our planet is literally giving birth. Giving birth, the next layer, the next level of reality. We are the children and the inhabitants of that birth process. And it's very painful when the baby goes through the birth process. Like, the baby's getting squeezed. It doesn't know what's going on. It's never been through this before. It doesn't know how to act. It has to surrender and somehow squash itself through in, very difficult aperture. Like, we're all having to do that. And the planet's having difficulty too. And we're surrounded by technology. This stuff does not help the birth process. It does not help planetary ascension. And the key point is, people can't take birth for granted. The Handmaid's Tale and the Children of Men, these are cautionary tales about what happens in a technological, obsessed, industrialized world where people get so focused on technology that they take away their capacity to actually make new babies. Prioritize technology over birth, then you don't get a future generation. And you need a future generation. In 20 years or 100 years, you won't have more people. If you prioritize technology over birth, you will not have more people. And some people who are these satanic people actually think that that is good because they themselves are so inherently flawed that they should go to entropy. But instead of just choosing to go to entropy themselves, they are projecting their own flaws on everyone and saying, therefore, everyone should go to entropy. Not 100% of the people here should or shall go to entropy. Only a certain select portion of the world shall go to entropy. And so that's why I'm surgical in how I do this. So they are manic. They are insane. They're different than Elon Musk. They are satanic people who believe profoundly in the Bible, not in the sense of wanting to be good, but in justifying their unjustifiable actions by saying that they are somehow the foil and the contrast to good. And you need evil to bring about the thing that you really want in the book of Revelation, which is justice and renewal. In the end of the story, the hero comes back and he says, I'm not dead. I was only mostly dead. And now I'm going to clean house, get rid of all this garbage, and establish something cool. And I'm destroying the prophecy. And that means that that's not going to happen. It doesn't mean that something good won't happen. It means it won't be that. And I'm telling you, I am the waitress in the diner that says, you don't want that. You really want this. You do not want the tuna melt. It's gross. Gross. What you want is like a nice, healthy grilled chicken, with some greenery or something like that. Dandelion salad. All right. That's what you really want. That's what's good on the menu. Okay. So, I watched actually a very good video that I enjoyed that kind of helped me to have the connection to human development at this level. Like, because I'm always like, if I say these things, like people are going to reject me. But seeing that guy say those things, I'm like, well, he is a human being. People are listening to him and not rejecting him as if he is the spawn of Satan. So therefore, I think that people are open to this, and we need to talk about God and what God really is, and what religion really is, and um um what the meaning and purpose of life is, why we are here, and being critical of God and being critical of the Bible. So I get so many apologies for laboring in my mind, saying so many times, and really trying hard to be able to get these words out. I know that I'm working through a lot of mental interference here. Definitely challenging to be able to talk about these things I need to talk about. Um, the problems with the misportrayal of God in the Bible. The portrayal of God's behavior, motivations, and various tantrums as being very juvenile and non-divine, and as also being justifications for human beings' own juvenile and non-divine actions. So God, as it's portrayed in the Bible, you guys are like, ho hum, we know that one already. Or like, you don't have to tell us that. So flawed and inadequate God, and then, oh, there's another thing in there. So press pause on that. The danger that you face in the United States is this small section of religious maniacs who want to try to bring about society that is male dominated and that reflects what they consider to be a return to traditional biblical values. And some of these guys are Christians, and some of these guys are Jews. And they've got this weird, very fucked up relationship together that involves that particular nation state that has a particular flag that has some blue and white stripes upon it. You know who I'm talking about. And it's just challenges for me to be able to say those words without having my audio card fried for various reasons. Like, you shouldn't have to worry about that, but you got problems because of the out of balance power structure in the world. Someone just asked with their mind, do those people actually believe that they're doing good? And the answer in some part is yes. The original, the current day 2025 descendants of the original bricklayers from ancient Egypt who got genetically modified by Satan to genetically tune in to him, it, as if him, it is God, are in some ways being true to themselves because they genuinely think that they're doing the right thing. Orthodox Jewish people have a particular ritual where they take a chicken, it's only once a year at a particular time of year, and they swing it around their head 3 times. They place all of their sins upon the chicken, and then they kill the chicken, and it cleanses them for a year. This is an allusion to the activities that happened in the ancient temple. To give you a very quick historical synopsis of what the temple was. The temple was a temporary tabernacle in the desert after the bricklayers left Egypt and stole the power source from the pyramids, and which is kind of like a live, sentient, but also kind of like nuclear radiation power source. They were told by Satan, who was masquerading as God, to build a particular structure that would be a house for that strong radiation presence that was like at one time a benevolent civilizing process, but now is being used and exploited and weaponized and inverted, and then to do animal sacrifices around it. All right. And then when they actually took what is Jerusalem as their long-term dwelling place, they built a permanent temple. That is the temple where they did the animal sacrifices. So here you are in ancient Egypt that was originally matriarchal and very, very civilized. Then it ended up devolving and everything fell to shit the way that things happen. You know how things go. And then eventually Moses and these other guys stole the power center from the pyramids. Pyramids went dark, and then they all went out and started to create this, Jewish culture. They went to Jerusalem and built the temple there and did all the animal sacrifices there. So basically, a power structure that is ruled over by a demon and that is fed by death. That is what Judaism is. A power structure that is ruled over by an imposter demon pretending to be God and that is fed by death. That satanic imposter was in direct opposition to me and other benevolent, otherworldly people and preachers who were here in a non-embodied state, post-Atlantis. Difficult to talk about with time language. Don't get too caught up in there, all right? But just know that. He was like the lamest, lame-ass loser of the immortals. He's not immortal. He's being destroyed. But total lame-ass loser. Just like these Doge kids. They can't get a girl, so they will digitally rape someone using the hydrogels. It's gross and wrong. So Satan could not actually get genuine adoration and not worship, but divine union. And so Kim and raped an entire population by genetically modifying them and turned them into people who would Stockholm syndrome worship their abuser. And that's who ended up becoming the foundation of the Jewish religion. And they also, continued onward to do the sacrifice. Okay, so the whole idea of Jesus and the Christian religion is that it would be the end to sacrifice. He was supposed to be the end. This is why I think that he had a great affinity for humans, comprehending human motivations, great people skills. Good people skills. But maybe not that good on his math, because I think that it did not work. And I think that there were a lot of miscalculations that were done there. And but I do think that he believed deeply in what he was doing and, is good. So don't think that he came as like a power abuser or anything like that. I really think that he came to try to do good things and do the best he could. Oh my goodness, like everything that he did and all of his energy and all that stuff, like most of it was just completely subverted and misappropriated and used very, very badly. And the things that are done or were done with that energy are just very harmful towards you and many other people. So yeah, well, from a strictly utilitarian point of view, you would have to question whether he would actually get into his own heaven. Because if he earned 10,000 good person points from helping these many people, but then created a debt for himself of 42 million billion trillion good person points that he didn't have because of all the bad things that happened, like he might not even be able to get into his own heaven. But you also have to understand that the conception of Christian heaven is also inherently flawed and that you wouldn't want to be there. And that it's also something that I, do not consent to because I don't want to see your consciousness imprisoned. Heaven, as it is described in the Christian church, is an invention. It is an astral realm, a construction, not something that was constructed by God. So it is a human, dreamlike conception, but not an actual empirical place that exists. And that means it's a place that is upheld by belief and by programming and by expectation, but not necessarily a place that you will simply innately experience without the indoctrination from early years in your life. And both heaven and hell, in that sense, are both places of soul capture and pressing pause on your journey, and definitely not final resting places where you should go and stay for forever until the end of time, but also like, terrible. And sorry that I say also like and so much as I'm trying to say put these things into words, struggling mightily in order to be able to put these things into words. I can't. Okay, so that's all right. I have a lot more to say, believe me, and I have plenty of more white hot rants. Let me make sure that I get through all of this important stuff. So, Kim Rose, thank you. I also really respect and appreciate that you can be here in this class. As a person on your journey, you've been at times a Orthodox believer in traditional Christianity and a person who has studied the doctrine a lot, and then a person who came out of that and through the other side and then into levels of exploration and reconsideration to be able to come here and listen to me give a critique of, you know, the food at your favorite restaurant in a place that you like, you don't really eat there that much anymore. Thank you for that respect. And for, I definitely appreciate that and would like for you, I would like to hear the feedback of how it is when I say these things. So let me say this to you, all humans. Christianity right now is being held forward as an appealing carrot to you because you're being tormented, and they want to say that it's the way that the torment will stop. That is the definition of torture, and this is an MK Ultra mind control tactic. That's why I call this the Techno Inquisition. It is the same thing that's been done at other times in human history, but right now it is being done using implantations in your body and a satellite system. Oh my goodness, someone just got it. They understood. Oh, so people aren't really seeing and interacting with the real God. Correct. People aren't really hearing the real voice of God in their mind. Correct. People didn't hear the real voice of God in their mind in ancient Egypt, the people that became the Jews and believed in and wrote the Bible. Correct. It's been a lot of misguidance and belief in something that is a false God. And you're supposed to, which is what Age of Aquarius, moving into these levels of reconnection with your crown, is like, be guided by your own inner awareness. And it should be so finely calibrated that you just know without any question what you are supposed to do in each moment. And that's why there is not an ethical framework or a prescribed recipe that will carry you through your life, because it changes from moment to moment. Sometimes God will tell you, eat the chocolate eclair, and sometimes God will tell you, eat the carrots. That you have to listen. And so the essence of non-judgment, like Jesus gave you these teachings, but then it got misinterpreted because it wasn't being given on the anthropomorphic, it was being given on the abstract level and is heard through the anthropomorphic level. Like, you can't do that. You have to know. So that's why he said, like, don't judge, because like, you don't know whether that guy should be eating an eclair or a carrot. It's like, don't judge, let him choose what he's supposed to do. But then that teaching has been misinterpreted, that like, you're not allowed to make any kind of assessment or any kind of judgment or any kind of these things. And so all these Christians are like, well, that guy's over there being super evil, but I'm not supposed to judge him. So blah, 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 go be evil and eat a bunch of ranch flavored babies and do go on Epstein Island. Like, that's not okay. No, that is not okay. Setting boundaries is what you're supposed to do. Doctrine of infinite forgiveness is basically like being in the club. And when I told you you're being graded as a group, it means you're being slush funded with the reptile, the Epstein Island baby eating reptile, evil asshole users. And you are different than them. That is not correct. So definitely you need to advocate for and be assessed as individuals. Advocate for yourself to be assessed as an individual and make it happen. And I'm doing everything I can to turn off the 5G. They've been stealing your ascension energy. And then they've been also trying to see if they can imposter their way through and come to some level of resolution. And none of that works. They can't accelerate. And their dead weight, that is definitely dragging you down. You have to cut them loose and be like, no, you're dead weight. I'm not bringing you up. And I'm telling you, people like that are low-hanging fruit. It's obvious, like Elon Musk. So perhaps, let me use this as an example, not perhaps. In the traditional Orthodox Christian view, you would pray for Elon Musk, and you would want for your prayers to lift him up and be like, be a better person, get closer to God. Like, I'm going to pray for you. I'm going to this and that for you. And that is extremely flawed. That is actually not the right thing to do. What you should actually do is send him to entropy, which is a removal of energy from him. As Antichrist, he has assaulted Christ. He has done everything he can to stop you from ascending and try to remove ascension energy from you. And what you are supposed to do is not give him extra ascension energy, but to remove the energy that he's taken from you, claw back, and then send him to entropy. Just like saying, no, you can't hijack me. run on your own power, get the F away from me, stop assaulting me because I'm trying to give birth here to a better reality. In ancient Atlantis, none of us parasite from one another. You're not required to. You would think it is idiotic to. Like if you already have a dress, you don't need like a dress on a dress, a hat on a hat. Like I have a hat. I don't need a hat on a hat. You have all of the energy that you need. You do not need something more. And it is unbelievable to think that that you would need something more. Like unimaginable is what I'm trying. It's inconceivable that you would need that. Elon Musk is literally the definition of like a parasite, trying to get his ascension energy from other people. And it doesn't make him ascended. What it does is it takes someone who already would have met his end already. He already would have, whatever, fallen off the face of the planet. His biological body would not have supported him as consciousness. He would be dead, Deadsville, bye-bye. He would not be here if not for siphoning energy and ascension energy and time energy away from all of you guys, all of us. That is antichrist behavior. So the flawed Christian doctrine is like, oh, like we forgive you. Hang around and be a part of heaven. And I say that is not correct. And flawed Christian doctrine is also saying, like, well, you don't get to set a boundary, but one day, Jesus is going to come back and Jesus is going to set a boundary. That is how you have had 2,000 years of misery. So again, the Christian doctrine is extremely flawed, and that is not something that Jesus' original message was about. He didn't say, please wait around and allow evil to run rampant for 2,000 years while I will eventually come back and fix things. Like, please know, like a lot of that he is not associated with and not affiliated with. That wasn't his bad math. His bad math had to do with being that last sacrifice and trying to end let's say it like this. Okay, a better way of saying it is like this. Judaism, obviously a satanic religion, masquerading as something else that is like, benevolent in some way. He got born into that religion, saw it as being very fucked up, and tried to stop it from happening. Got killed for it. And then after that, the energy of his death and his goodness was even used to like further corrode and suppress the people who share his values and love him and are emanations and outgrowths of him. Like, that to me, that is not a successful spell. If you want to look at this in terms of magic, spell work, and like living the truth of natural magic. And, I think that that's a valid, that's a valid critique. I think that that's a valid critique. Some people would say, well, like, the story isn't over. Like, look, it's not over. It's like, I'm cleaning up. I know exactly what's going on here. I am here as the cleanup crew. You have a world because of me. I am cleaning up the inadequacies and things that happened as a result of what he did, but he was a super, really, really good person and tried very, very hard. So that is important for you to know. So definitely, I think we're coming to the end of class. I'm definitely tired. Let's make sure that we get through all the questions and comments, and then I want to make sure that I spoke to the most important things. So the most important things that I can warn you about are it is a new Reformation church, whatever is the new church that is the Charlie Kirk Church. They had Charlie Kirk hologram projections after he is dead, like he is talking to you from a digital afterlife. And then what they're trying to do is have his wife come forward with some kind of energy of sympathy of the widow and help to usher in this Palantir version of reality helmed by J.D. Vance that would be a total reduction in all of your rights and would be pretty much you getting raped by Satan every day of your life in a world where there's no more fertility and women are passed around like objects to breed with. And that's terrible reality. I'm not going to let that reality happen. So you guys need, and you want to know, like, well, what's your role in this? Like, if you would like to add your efforts, how do you make sure that that reality doesn't happen as well? Your belief, worldview, observership, and connection to your experience is profound. Like, it's so important for you to continually bring yourself out of disempowerment narratives instead of saying, like, well, what do I do? Do I pray? You do not pray to a satanic god or a biblical god. And you do not pray in a quid pro quo intercessional request. Intercessional request is the same as sacrifice, but just without the dead chicken. It's not right and it's not appropriate. What is right is for you to make efforts to fix, heal, and right, correct the fabric of society. Definitely not appropriate for you to externalize power or to kill an innocent creature in an effort to somehow make the world better. So killing is not inherently wrong. Violence is not inherently wrong. Killing innocent creatures in order to try to fix the fabric of reality is inherently wrong. And it makes things worse. So let's think about this. You're a doctor and your job is to cut off the body parts of stuff that's not supposed to be here because it's, sick or acting badly, all right? And you're like, which body parts do I cut off? Cut off the malformed body parts, not the good body parts. So violence is like a doctor doing surgery, cutting off the malformed body parts, not cutting the healthy stuff. So when you kill an innocent chicken, you are cutting off healthy body parts in the world. That chicken didn't do shit. It's just a chicken. It is not evil. It does not deserve to be killed by a human that is swinging it around its head 3 times and then throws it into the East River in Brooklyn. Then the chicken will die and be like, who wasted my fucking life for some stupid satanic narrative? Just like the octopus is like, why did you put me in a glass coffin away from all of my people? These organisms have no idea why you're doing that to them. It is a form of insanity. So now I would say maybe, Kim Rose, to be able to more effectively synopsize my assessment of the things that are in the Bible, I think that it is really deeply ingrained insanity, what's written in the Bible, and not something healthy, very minimal nutrition in there, and something that is so culturally ingrained and celebrated that it is dangerous. And in the present world that they would like to do the Handmaid's Tale, if you go to church, that is looked at as something that is a positive and celebratory action. And it might even be seen as being an ally to the regime. Well, don't worry, I tried it, but they were like, she just keeps on taking the loosh that we're trying to harvest and just making it not happen. So we don't think that Aurora is an ally, but I think some people are trying to pass. And passing is what people do in situations of when you are endangered, but you can become somewhat like an appearance of an ally, like in the segregationist South of the United States. Black people would pass for a white person if they were light-skinned. All right, a way to be able to hide under the radar. Some people, there's not a Christian revival going on in the United States. Some people are choosing to align with the Antichrist regime in order to have less inner torture from the Techno-Inquisition and to pass and to appear to be in alignment with the regime. The regime requires technology. Also, you know what you can do in your own mind? Like, you need to, of course, cultivate and master your own observership and master your own divinity. But also, like, this thing is very much observing, frying, and trying to implant stuff in your mind. Like, you can be powerful in your fight against it. Like, I believe in you, believe in the things that I'm able to teach you, like the techniques that I'm able to teach you. And you can be powerful in your self assertions in your mind. So I don't have exact ways to be able to teach you. So, okay, so all right. If your Christ chakra you'd be ascended by now. If your Christ chakra was functioning effectively, this would be like the billboard at the airport, and you'd be ascended by now. You would have incinerated all the lies and all the propaganda, and I wouldn't be here having to warn you. Don't believe in the New American Reformation Church and the Eric Kirk and the Charlie Kirk thing. This is all like a psyop on top of the psyop of Christianity, and it's very much intending to not only take over the United States, because maybe you live in Guam, or no, that's a territory of the United States. You live in Vanuatu or Tanutuva, and you're like, oh, that's happening across the world. It has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with you, because everybody gets fried by the satellites. And it doesn't matter if you move to Tanutuva or Vanuatu. The satellites will find you there. There's not a way to live in freedom, even on a desert island, in this level of desecration. That's the word, to take the sacredness away from something. So there's not a way that you can be non-confrontational. And a lot of what is presented as being good in Christianity is non-confrontational, just to allow evil to run rampant. Even the worldview where they say that the physical world, much like the Essene worldview, is viewed in Christian theology as Satan's playground. The Amish say this: it's Satan's playground, and evil runs rampant, and then you get your reward in the afterlife. That's, of course, untruthful, and it's very corrosive, and it has led to the garbage world that you presently experience, because you're supposed to actually set boundaries and be confrontational. And so you look at someone who is doing something evil, the false doctrine says you should give them energy and pray for them to be non-evil. No, you should accept that they are fucking evil. Because when you pray for them to be non-evil, you're praying for them to change. And that is the antithesis of love. You're basically saying, you're not being who you're supposed to be. I want you to change. They're evil. They're not going to change. Or you're not going to change them with your words or with your intentions. And then that intention is siphoned off. No, what you really need to do is confront them. So the belief system of Christianity and intercessional prayer is your steam release valve for actually doing shit. And you should actually do shit. Instead of saying, I will pray for Elon Musk and his soul, you should confront him and say, you're frying people and organisms and environments, ecosystems with your fucking satellites, causing cancer and heart disease and all sorts of problems in the world. You should confront that person so they stop what they are doing. Same thing with Bill Gates. So the problem is that the Christian religion, much like the QAnon psyop, tells you, relax, trust the plan, be infantilized, eat your Cheerios behind your high chair and wait for rescue. When what you really need to do is become active and engage with reality and confront the evil people in your own society who are doing very bad things and make them stop doing it. That's really incredibly, incredibly important. So here are key takeaways. You know that your power is vital and important when they try to take the power away from you. Like, they are trying to use illusions and sleight of hand and all of these things in order to distract you, because you are creating reality, and your self-recognition as God is important and powerful. Your self-recognition of yourself as God is important and powerful. You can stop externalizing your expectation and praying intercessionally to an external God and actually internalize your power, and then confront people in your world who are doing wrong so that things get better. And that seems like a no-brainer. Like, you're like, that would be, if we did that, our world would be amazing. It would be amazing, because you would not be laboring under delusions, behavioral control systems, and basically trauma-based mind control. Every time they say, wait for support, sit tight and wait for support, that is trauma-based mind control. You have been brought into levels of disempowerment where they then will present you with the thing that's going to come along and fix you and save you. So you can also do a lot of things with disbelief and verbal disbelief, and with speaking your truth. So I do this on Twitter all the time, not only because it's connected to Brain Musk Husk, but also because I'm like, I know he can hear this, I'll write it on Twitter. It helps us to support one another in community. And yeah, it really does help a lot to have the social consensus that you're not the only one thinking this, and you're not the only one acting or speaking out about this, because they make propaganda and they'll say on Twitter, everyone's in a Christian revival. We all just went to the megachurch and we all just believed in their AI slop. And then you can write and say, this is not truthful. No, this is not what's going on in my community. No, this is not what's happening here at all. Because it's only these lies and misrepresentations of reality that are illusions that have, even a tiny amount of power. As soon as you use your words you are confronting them and destroying them. So again, like I'm not even telling you to, get a machete or confront someone in that sense. I'm telling you to use your ability to communicate actual information. Be like, no, this is not what I believe in. This is not what's truthful. And this is not what's actually happening. And then also you must reclaim your political power. You know that I am against the established religions, and I'm also against the nation states of your world, like the governments. I don't believe in or want to support or sustain governments. You have to reclaim hijacked governments. They are now almost completely have been taken over by the satanics that you understand have been diminishing the capacity to communicate effectively, have actual unfettered elections, and have self-determination. And you have to do planetary-wide parasite purge. Got to get rid of the parasites. So this goes down to very profound levels of who is supposed to be here and who is not supposed to be here. And of course, what I'm always trying to tell you about it, you begin with your own body. Close down soul portals that allow the unrestful dead or unhealed trauma residues to act through you. That's the first thing. And then begin to cultivate the positive personality characteristics that are within you. Those well, just gonna not even talk about that stuff because it's about who is supposed to live through you. Like, yeah, you should have beautiful, benevolent Christ living through you. I didn't talk to you enough about qualities of beautiful, benevolent Christ. But because if I tell you this, you're gonna be like, well, Aurora, you told us they're all destroyed. How can they live through me if they're all destroyed? So just for right now, just be yourself. Don't open portals to anything living through you. But I'm talking to you very sadly here, because in a world the way that it's supposed to be, you don't have this gross evil stuff, and you do have an amazing network of yourself in other places. But you're living as not just human, you're living as very many other types of people in all sorts of other places. And you are learning the lessons that you need to learn in those contexts. And it's all you, but you're 100% in freedom. And each one of your individuated selves has free will, but you all contribute to the unified viewpoint. And the unified viewpoint is Christ. And that unified Christ viewpoint is aimed into each person. So it is very much a beautiful connection to soul family. These are your sisters and your brothers. It's yourself. Care about yourself immensely. Very loyal to yourself. And that is how I've come to the, presumption that this network has been destroyed or severely disrupted, because I know how loyal they are, or I am, or we are towards one another. There should have been so much more protection, so much more prevention of the things we've experienced. The only conclusion that I can draw is like they must have been totally wiped out, like for it to be this bad. I've already used the explanation, like if you are waiting to get picked up after school and your parents don't come, and at first you're like, I am very annoyed, and then you finally walk home and you find out they've been like whatever murdered by axe murderers or something like that. Like there was a reason why they didn't come and get you. They couldn't. They were destroyed. I think very sadly that this is what is going on with our sisters and brothers in other times, places, other worldly dimensions. It's a difficult message to have to bring to you. I don't know it for real. I presume it. And so, of course, we'll find out, like, as reality unfolds, I will find out the truth of that. But just know, like, you might have to go through a grieving process, and then you might have to come out the other side and be like, okay, if that's what's going on, I'm going to pick up and go forward anyway, and honor everyone that I love and the goodness that I had by choosing to go forward. I hope that you will do something like that. Please don't go into depression, despair, or hopelessness. But I've gone through my processing experience and all of that, and I have absolutely decided I'm just going to no one's going to mop the floor. I'm going to mop the floor. So that I've been mopping the floor. So look, guys, you're going to have a world. You're going to have a future. There will be a graduating class. You will have some, DNA going forward, but very little. But it's not like what they talk about in the end of the Bible. And I hope that I've done everything I can here to help to wipe those expectations away. What's the good parts of the Bible are what people call the miracles, supernatural. people who are healed without explanation, rising from the dead, or revivification of those who, died mistakenly, and then restoration of justice and restoration of divine harmony. Like those are all the good things of the Bible. Let's talk about the things that are good in the teachings of Jesus or the parables of Jesus. The idea that if there's not enough food, you can amplify and magnify the food, the fishes and the loaves. What are some other ones? Doing things beyond the laws of physics. That he demonstrated, like a lot of the Eastern teachers in Asia, being able to do things beyond the laws of physics. Like there's a supernatural world, and that through being in alignment with divine consciousness, you can positively access and not harness, but be powerful with the powers of that world. So the pitfall of developing up to this level, but not yet getting to this level, is power abuse. And you've been in a world, humans, like we were in our time machine. We're like way back in ancient Egypt. We come back to 2025. Let's come forward to 2025. We're here in 2025 again. Good. Like, that was my imaginary time machine. And I'm sorry if that also dragged me off track. You should, because I want to give you a good conclusion. Terrible. I definitely got dragged off track by that. Apologies. So let me see if I can get back to it or begin again. Just terrible. Mind blanking. Okay. So, oh my goodness. I just looked at my notes and I realized when I was talking about the ascension in ancient Atlantis, and part of my brushing of my teeth this morning, and when I was fighting against these evil Doge kids, when we were in Atlantis and we were ascending, you go up that mountain and you have a confrontation with people. Sometimes you re-encounter people who you really love and who treated you beautifully, but you also have a confrontation with people who do not treat you beautifully, and you grow and you ascend. But that was a really, really qualitatively different experience than what is happening here and now. Like here now, back then you did not have obstacles, like people who stood in your way and were like, I'm here, you're not getting past me, you're never going to reach the sun, and you're never going to ascend. That is what you have here now. Like you have the amplified detritus of insane pathological minds that is also technological and emitting from these different towers and artificial light sources that are between you and God. They're coming between you and God, and you have to kind of like get them out of the way. This is very, very different than the confrontation that you might have had with troubled relationships in Atlantis. So these guys that in the 2025 world are standing between you and divine union or direct connection to the sun and the stars are trying to say, hey, we're your shit. Deal with your shit. Like, deal with your residues. Deal with your resolve your tensions. And it's not truthful at all. Like you're actually not responsible for all of this human garbage. You're responsible for your own life, emotional turmoil and detritus, not for them. That is wrong. So they're doing the thing where they stand in front of you like an immovable object and then see if you have infinite energy to try to move them out of the way. But that is qualitatively different than what we did in the past. What we did in Atlantis, or do in Atlantis, is come to a confrontation that brings our light back to us. Like when you have interactions, that's normal day-to-day interactions, people contain some of your light, like containing the story of your life from their viewpoint. And then when you re-encounter them, they give you their viewpoint of you in that moment of your life. And both people grow because you have this mutual viewpoint. And this is very similar to what it's basically training. That is training, like a marathon, to prepare you for the ultimate marathon of being on the Christ network. Okay. That is very, very different than having a bunch of unhealed technological transhumanist losers stand in your way and say, I'm going to stop you from ascending. Like the truth is, I've never met Elon Musk. He's not a person that I have to resolve stuff with. I actually have one thing that I've been working out with him, but this is not like a person that I've met and interacted with. Okay, if you want to know, you have to say this. because I piqued your curiosity. Let's say it. So, okay, this is like way back in 2006 or so. Elon Musk was making designer babies for himself and along with a lot of other people. And what I did was I just cleared out their extra designer genes from their babies so that that way they would just have regular babies. Because I was like, you know something, not only is this against the genetic code and it's a genetic crime, it's not like I'm going to like take the life away from the baby or make it so that they can't have children or anything like that. I'm just going to make it so that the kid has a fucking chance to be a real person and not some kind of a CRISPRed genetic monstrosity. We just took away the fake shit and left it as a real person. And I'm not sure, but I think that that kid is the one that was supposed to be Elon Musk's soul portal. Like he was gonna transfer himself through these ways that they do that. And I think I closed his soul portal by doing that. I think that that is the emotional stuff that he's got a problem with me, like the personal stuff. But that, like, this is like very questionable whether that is something that they're standing, because I didn't want to muddy the waters by saying this to you because none of this is in physical life. Like, I've never met the person in physical life. I've never interacted with Elon Musk. I've, you know, written on Twitter. I've never even been in a Tesla car. I actually remember the first time I saw the car that has arms that go up like this. And I'm like, that is the weirdest car I've ever seen. So I really, in five senses of reality, have zero interaction with him. So this is not equitable. This is not equitable. Possibly a supernatural thing that I have to work out with the person, but your lives are going to be a lot more clear cut. You have nothing at all to do with him. You've never been to a dinner party. You've never met him. You've never this or thatted with him. You have nothing to work out with him or any of these other fat asses that are standing in front of your way. Like, you have nothing to work out with them. It is completely erroneous. In Atlantis, you had actual stuff to work out with people that you needed to confront and talk with. So these are completely non-equitable situations. Now, I really have to apologize to you because I feel like I've done such a poor presentation here. Like, I'm trying to say all these things using the word like I'm losing my train of thought and so many different things. So please let me just ask you for like total, like, this is my humble apology, total request for forgiveness, because I really struggle sometimes to be able to communicate and have done so today, really only under extreme duress with so many interferences. I really wanted to come here and talk about Christianity, religion, and the good parts of Christianity. Of course, I have to talk about these other things, and some things get me off track and make me go in the wrong direction. But let me, and I want to go to it more, just make sure I read all of your questions. Jesus, who was here, is and was an incredible person. Good, incredible person. Because you need to know that people like that exist or existed. You need to know the truth of that goodness is real. A lot of the other stuff, lies, fairy tales, propaganda, and things that are very, very unhealthy. In asking about the Bible and whether there's any goodness in there for you, I'd say probably like toss it, put it in the bin, right? But what about the person? The person, Jesus, is an amazing person, and we should all be able to, accessible to love and connect with him. That's the thing that we want to do. But I think that there's flaws. So I don't want you to throw Jesus, the person, in the bin or say that he's a flawed spiritual leader or this or that. But there's definitely some stuff that's not perfect. Can you, propaganda says, Son of God, perfect guy. The truth is, Son of God, imperfect person. And of the parts of him that are really worthy of admiration, stick to those parts. The parts that are not good, please recognize them. Okay? Can you change your expectation of who and what that teacher was to encompass that potentiality and recognize that and move beyond that expectation that he had to be a perfect person in the flesh? I think that's one of maybe the most corrosive and difficult teachings. And also the stuff about that he was celibate and that a perfect person must be celibate in the flesh in order to ascend. Like, that is not truthful. But I am celibate in your world because your world is very sexually dysfunctional. And again, please do not put your mind upon me or my sexuality. My sexuality is private. Like I don't share it with the world. I'm not gay. I'm heterosexual, but I just keep what I do private. But I'm not rejecting of sexuality because I think that sexuality is wrong or bad. It's because the food here is gross. Like the plates are dirty. I'm not going to eat the food here. You don't even know what hole to do it in. Okay, sorry. And I hope that that broke the tension a little bit. Let's go to questions and comments. Bum, bum. No, oh my goodness, I just did something. I don't know what I just did. I don't know what I just did. Now I press a button. Sorry. Oh, Michelle, I'm so sorry. I have to listen to that song. Thank you. Thank you for the reminder. I got it. I got to listen to it. Okay. Kim Rose says, do you think they're still going to do Project Bluebeam to deceive religious people with artificial return to Christ? Thank you for that question. It was worth it. I'm really happy that I read what you wrote here. Yeah, I think that's ongoing. I think that's what they're trying to do. Your question goes on, but I'll tell you, I think that that's what the setup was with stuff like Charlie Kirk. But I also think that it is super lame and wanky, and that it's not going to work. So I think that they did this thing with Charlie Kirk and then created an AI hologram, and Charlie's in heaven and Jesus is snuggling him and all those different things in order to test the waters and see, like, is the spaghetti done? Will it stick on the wall? Like, will people believe in this shit? And like, if you don't believe in this shit, like, I don't think it's going to actually work. So I don't think that they have their technological capacity fine-tuned to be able to make you really look up in the sky and think that you are seeing a genuine bearded sky god come down, and to also create the artificial euphoria feelings. I think that the entire W-band network was engineered to try to make that happen, but I don't think that they have created it effectively. And I have done everything I can to destroy their network so that they can't create that. But I think that that was the goal, to be able to hijack your retinas, digitize your retinas, digitize and hijack your biochemistry, and then also connect that somehow to some kind of perceived sky experience. Kind of like what we used to have for real in good pre-pharaonic Egypt, but instead with this fake shit. The best they could do was this kind of more recent laser light extravaganza that they did outside of the pyramids recently. I'm sure you saw it. It had a lot of flashing lights. I could not watch the video. Please never send me videos with flashing lights. I have epilepsy. So I just saw that was going on. I'm like, oh, flashing lights, optogenetics. I don't want this, but it's close as they can do. So please know, like, the short answer is, I think that although these agendas exist, don't think that they have the oomph to actually bring any of it forward or actually make any of it happen. So Kim Rose goes on to say, our sightings of the Aurora Borealis, people are reporting further south, part of the Bluebeam deception. No, they are not. So this is also challenging because I'm in this world that is such a traumatized world that when people see actual phenomena, they think, is this a fake phenomena? Is this real? Is this? I'm glad that people are skeptical, but it does make it much more difficult for authenticity to break through. So the times when Aurora has really been here in the world and reached places that are different latitudes and at different times of the year than it usually reaches, it's not the government and it's not HARP. And people are like, well, look, like, it's just a milky pink sky. Like, it's not the real Aurora, because, the real Aurora is supposed to have like waves going through it and different things like that. So then they think that it's not the real me, but it's the real me. And it's so hard, like when you like right in someone's face, but they can't tell if it's really you. So I'm not mad, but I'm just disappointed. All right. That's not your fault at all. That's just me talking. She says, it is beautiful and mesmerizing, but then I think maybe it is artificial. She says, also, yesterday I saw a silver light orb rising straight up and then transform into a drone shape and then into the shape of a jet and fly away. Would you consider this to be a clank clank metal spaceship, even though it manifested more like a plasma, or is it all blue beam crap? That is the essence of the fake planes. So I'm glad that you were able to see that. I'm glad that your eyesight is clear enough to be able to know and decode what you're looking at. These are like the technology that's been deployed in your world. A lot of it is retro-engineered, but its origins are extraterrestrial. Mostly this is, at this point, your own Earth-based military and intelligence agencies creating these, but also it wasn't always. And at this point, your military and intelligence agencies and agents have all become infested and inhabited by the people, things, or organisms that made that type of stuff. So the answer is, it is definitely a fake clank clank metal spaceship, although it has cloaking illusions around it. It is not a phenomenon, not a genuine light or genuine consciousness phenomenon. So that was not just a holographic illusion that you saw. There is the kernel of truth with a lie around it, and sometimes a lie around the lie. So the orb that you saw is the kernel of truth, and the programmable matter that is in people's bodies and in their eyesight is also similar, like fractal tiny versions of that larger orb that then goes inside of the people. And this is also related to CERN, like fractured fractal reality. Yes, asking good questions. You're doing great. Thank you, Kim Rose. Kim Rose says, wonderful teaching. Thank you, beloved Professor Aurora and the wonderful Cheeky. Many, many thanks for all the battles you have been fighting on winning on our behalf. You're so very welcome. Thank you. Thank you for asking your questions, for your participation, for your patience with me while I talk through all these things, and for recognizing all the things that I've been doing. Also, like you guys can tell, like my hair looks crazy. I've not done the dishes in a long amount of time, and our it's been very intense for like the past 2 weeks, but definitely for the past week, it's been a very, very challenging time. So also I bring that forward so that if you are feeling like if you're staying up late into the middle of the night or having weird dreams or difficult body stuff, like not feeling very hungry or not sleeping, not eating or sleeping well or not doing your usual thing, or if your pets are doing that, please know that it's not the aurora disrupting you. It's the bad stuff that's here trying to disrupt you. And the influx of the aurora is definitely a positive cleansing and stabilizing aspect of what's happening here. But so the best things that you can do are like things that are body care and supportive and that help you to keep going. Pedro, thank you for being here. Says, is Satan just for Christians, or does it take other names in other religions? Or are there different demons for each religion or area of the world? When I talk about Satan and the satanics, I am really talking about a particular space race. They don't exist anymore because they've pretty much focused all of the resources here, and I've pretty much destroyed all of them out there, and I'm just mopping up around here. But when I say a satanic, that's different than a Satanist. So a Satanist is someone who's like, well, I used to be a brunette, but now I decided to be a blonde. So I bought some hair color and changed my hair. Like a satanic is in your DNA. It is these bloodlines. It's who they are in the world. And a Satanist is someone who chooses to do these these mime presentations, performative, choose to perform the rituals that please the satanics. So the Satanists are sometimes of different bloodlines. They're like fans, they're hangers on, and they participate in rituals and give energy to the stuff. But they are not on an equal level. But what am I trying to say here? Like, I'm trying to say that being satanic is not just a lifestyle choice, as it is sometimes presented by goth, emo, young people, or sometimes old people. I struggle to say that. No, being a satanic is a connection to a genetic distortion and an error in the antenna of the DNA that tunes that consciousness into an erroneous source, presuming that it is God when it is not actually God. It is actually Satan. So the non-God origin of Satan is not universal, but let's say generic and cross-cultural. The interpretations of that malevolency is unique across cultures and often is named different things. Good question. Thank you for that one. And Michelangelo says, thank you, Master Aurora. Love to you, Cheeky, and all the beautiful souls here. Thank you for that love. Sending love and encouragement to you. And Joyce says, thank you, Professor Aurora. Love and appreciation. Love to you and Cheeky too. Thank you, guys. And thank you for including Cheeky. She loves it. Oh, and Joyce is so sweet. She says, you are fine. I get it. You are a targeted individual. You totally understand. Like literally while I'm talking to you about these things, there are these things that come across like this that are like going through the third eye that are from these evil hydrogel assholes that are trying to wipe my mind. It is so challenging for me to remember and also to find the right words when I'm trying to share these things with you. And similar level of support from Michelangelo says, "Oh my OMG, don't feel anyone here expects you to apologize. You wonderful soul. Thank you very much. Really, really appreciate your community support, social support, because sometimes I doubt myself just in my languaging. Like I really try to prepare for class so much and be like, how can I say this? And how can I say this? Get all of myself all together. And then I get here to say all the things. And I feel like I'm like all over the place, fragmented and not making very much sense. So thank you. And thank you for allowing me the authenticity to try to express myself here. And also because it's a difficult message that I'm bringing. Why so much disruption today? Super difficult message against the regime. It would be super easy for you guys to be passive and be like, hey, like, let's all just go to church and kiss some ass and pretend that we're being good people. And if you do that, you lose your world. You can't do that. And the church that they are offering to you is not good church. And there's not a way to go along and get along. You got to confront them on what they're doing. Thank you. Pedro says, love lasagna. Thank you. Let's hug Cheeky. She's literally right here staring at me, waiting. And she's like, this is the longest class ever. And it's dark outside already. And yeah, we'll end on a good note. End on a good note with little Cheeky. There we go. Good job. Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Okay, so let me also say, like, I would like this. Oh, and Avril says, my partner has been destroyed by the church. Thank you, Aurora. Oh, you're so very welcome, Avril. And I really do hope that your partner is able to process the religious trauma and move past it. You know, actually, on a separate note, not to combine your partner, I know someone else in my life who was very targeted by the Mormon church. And you have to understand, like, I consider the Mormon church and like the elders of that church and the Orthodox guys in Israel, like these are insane people. And they do a lot of very dark magic stuff under the guise of Christianity, where they are doing dark magic spells under the guise of praying for someone or doing this or doing that. They are profoundly malevolent. Like sometimes there are people in the church who are shooting bad magic at each other under the guise of Christianity. So there's technologists, there's transhuman stuff, but then there's also the community stuff, the stuff that is happening in the faith-based community from other community members against others. So there's more, it's more than just ostracization or other aspects of your life. Like there are basically, if someone brings you down, like spells for being impoverished or being wrong or judgment or any of those things, like just think about the worst envy that people have in the world, like women who don't like other women that are more beautiful than them. The peril of what they want to bring forward with this transhumanist techno-inquisition church is it's run by those unhealed, insecure asshole people. So if they're like, well, we're going to make the church rules that if you're too beautiful of a woman, you got to wear a Christian burqa, because you're too beautiful and you're going to drive all the Christian men crazy with their giant Christian boners. So you better put on a Christian burqa. Like they're going to do something like that. And I use that language and I'm very crude in what I say purposefully, because I want to take away the benevolent energy from what they're doing and just have it be totally open. These are the most sexually grotesque, most dysfunctional people in your world. They are horrible. They do not have good sexual values at all. And they would create a very unhealed sexual society. Pedro says, Houthis and Satan are different. They are different. Yes. This is a big question. Pedro, let's table that for next week. Can we do that? Let's answer for next week, because my brain is definitely tired. I need food, drink, and rest. And we'll talk about that more. So please remind me if I don't remember. Houthis in contrast to Satan, like to horrible, like diarrhea versus constipation. That's what's on the menu next week. Awesome. Avril says 100% agree. He has dysfunction, addiction, and mental health issues, all from growing up in it. His entire family line and me is under spiritual attack, and his parents are still indoctrinated. Have a great evening, Cheeky and Aurora. Thank you, Avril. You understand, and you gave me the word I was struggling to find. What did you call it? Spiritual attack. Now, people go to the church for refuge, but unfortunately, in connecting to the community, they sometimes become instead under spiritual attack by the indoctrinated people who supposedly are there for support and instead are really there as armatures, armaments of the wickedness and the evil that they purportedly stand against. So, it's definitely a mind fuck. When you go, it's like going to the grocery store or the restaurant to get good food because you're so hungry, but then you are given bad food that then makes you even more nauseous, and then you reject everything. You're like, there's no food anywhere. So please know that is not God's plan. God's plan is not like, I'm just going to revolt you to organized religion, make it so revolting that you'll just be a rampant individualist. Like, no, no, you're really supposed to be able to find community. When I first came here as Aurora, I was excited to find the church because I was like, woohoo, like these are all the people who love Jesus and Christ as much as I do. And then little by little, as I went to different churches, I was like, this is not what I thought it was. And then I'm just like backing away slowly. I'm like, okay, like this is not what I thought it was. Goodbye. See you later. And then mostly what I did was just be kind of like accommodative, because mostly as a good person, what I do is I take people where they are in their journey. So I'm like, oh, like you're able to lift 5 pounds. That's great. You're not at Olympic athlete levels yet, but keep going. You'll get there. That's mostly how I have looked at people as being in Christian religion, as beginning efforts towards being able to make efforts to eventually have a divine connection. But this stuff that they are planning on doing is very, very evil and corrosive. So that's why I also realized I had to bring a message of caution. Don't believe any of this bullshit, and definitely speak out against it, because I think social dynamics, like using your voice, is incredibly important right now. So of course you haven't heard the last of this. I'm sure I will rant more. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you so much, and have a good night.